You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 401, The Book of Boba Fett. From the desert comes a stranger. Boy, I knew I was going to screw that one up. Wow, I don't know how long the show's going to be. You know, I've got about at least 6-7 pages of notes. It was, for me, probably some of the best Star Wars we've seen in a long time, and I was really trying to limit myself in what I was going to decide to talk about, because we could literally go through every single one of the lines in this episode and extrapolate something for it, or speculate on it, or theorize about it, and that's what we're going to do. So, without further ado, no, it won't be that extreme. But speaking of extreme, I'd like to welcome Bono back to the show. This is now his second time on the. I
forgot to take him off. Sorry.
Yeah, you threw me off there for a second. How you doing?
You didn't say 6 or 7. You said 67, I believe. 67,
67 pages.
Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure it wasn't 627. It was 67.
Yeah.
Man, doing great. It is cold in Texas.
I'm wearing my.
We're doing this beginning of February here in 2022, and we actually had little snow flurries out here in Houston, oddly enough.
Yeah, we did too. It's a
big deal.
Snow all over the place. So, oh man, we actually have news. So sorry to extend the show even further, but let's get into this because we got way too much stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we'll run through this really, really fast. So if you watch Star Wars, or this week in Star Wars, there were a few news items that dropped. One, they're doing an Obi-Wan comic. It's a mini series, so 5 issues. It's going to start in May. And basically, it chronicles, like, Obi-Wan is the last days when he's on Tatooine, and he's chronicling kind of his life. So, it's at various stages of his life. So, it's kind of an interesting concept. And so, we'll see familiar faces and familiar characters is there. Also, they're going to do a Star Wars tale, Chrysanthemum number 1, which is basically going to group it's kind of more of a graphic novel type of thing, but they're going to group all the comics that Chrysanthemum's been in, that some of them are pretty expensive to get physical copies of. But they're going to put them all in one book. I think there's probably 5 or 6 issues that are all in that one from both Dr. Aphra, Vader, and the regular Star Wars comic.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a one-shot thing.
Right.
And the release date's not super clear. It might be in May too, but we'll have to see on that one. And then there was a new middle grade novel that was announced, and that's a Battle for the Arena by Mark Oshiro. And it's based on the Star Wars Hunters game. So this is the Reeve, who's the force sensitive red lightsaber wielding character in the book. So pre-orders are open now, and I think it releases November 1st. And then literally 2 hours before we went on air, Charles Soule decided to drop his newsletter. And so it's all hot off the press. So of course he confirmed that he's doing a Porter Engle story, and it's actually a comic. I thought it was going to be a book. I was hoping it was going to be a book, but it's actually going to be a comic. And what was interesting though, is that Porter Engle will not be the only Engle that we meet.
Oh, like Laura, like the Ingles from. No, I'm sorry, it's a bad joke, and nobody's going to get.
No one's going to get.
Maybe Neil. Neil's with us. He probably gets that. But,
but interesting.
So
we don't know who that is. I don't know. Is it a Mrs. Engle? Is it a Engle Jr.? Is it Engle Senior? Or that's kind of an interesting one.
It's the dog.
Yeah. And then Charles Soule also confirmed that he'll be at Celebration in May. If you're in Philadelphia, he's going to be at Fan Expo in April. And if you're in New York, he's going to be at New York Comic Con in October as well. But we will be at Celebration in May, all things working out. And we hope to see him then.
We'll be there. I don't know if we'll have a Star Wars convention to go to, but.
Right. Yeah. We've got tickets and we got places to stay. So we're sleeping there at the very least. And then one other shout out, Zach on Twitter sent me some messages that I missed about, we had some technical issues with episode 400 going out on time. So give Zach a shout out for bringing that to our attention. And we had some folks in Discord do it as well. So thank y'all for being patient with us and for, holding out for us, letting us know.
Yeah, that was a misstep. I'm not sure what happened. We had a problem with Libsyn, who produces or releases the show or hosts them or whatever hosts the MP3 files.
Hosts and distributes.
Right. So we had a small issue there. So I don't know. We went like 4 days. So Shame on us. We'll check it next time. But hey, ping us if you guys are like,
Yeah.
what's going on? There's no show here on Wednesday morning.
What was
or
weird, the
whatever.
website posted it, but it just didn't post it with audio. So that was fun.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but we are getting more and more requests for you to put the glasses on. So I probably are going to need to comply here.
I
very
get
soon.
glare. So
We're going to have a uprising.
I tell you what,
the
everyone
chat.
go double your Patreon and we'll see what happens.
Okay, look at you.
She'll go
Okay.
do it. I won't I shouldn't say that. She'll go do
No,
it.
let's not do that. All right, let's get into this.
Yeah, let's do it.
401. Wow. And episode or chapter 6. So we knew Dave Filoni was going to be directing this. We knew Dave Filoni was going to be writing this. And anytime that's happened, at least the trend has been, there's something very big in terms of the Force, right?
Right.
It's Force centric in some way. And that streak has continued. We're seeing it again here in spades. But before we get into all of that, we'd like to kick the shows off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So things we thought were great, things that we thought could have been improved upon, and things that were just ugly for, I don't know, funny sake or physical sake or whatever you want to call it. It's just kind of a catch-all. So I'll let you start because if you start, then you at least take most of mine, and we won't be here for the next 20 minutes. But what did you have for the good in this episode?
Oh man, there were so many good things because, like you said earlier, this is some of, if not some of, or the best Star Wars that we've had either in a long time or possibly ever. And I don't think we're the only ones saying that. So I'll start with a couple of more broader things. The music in this episode was fantastic. I mean, we got a lot of the Force themes. We got Yoda's theme. I mean, we just had all sorts of themes running around. It felt more symphonic, orchestrated. So it just kind of had that Star Warsy kind of feel to the music, which again, I'm totally cool with the music they've been doing for the most part. I think it's been different and fun. But for the characters that we had show up this episode, it was just absolutely perfect what we had, and everything just was really spot on.
Yeah.
I do have to give credit. The CGI this time around, like pretty much for the entire episode, was phenomenal. It was really good. They had hired the deepfake dude to help with Luke, and Luke
Shamook is his name. If you guys, no, I just want to go out. He's got a YouTube channel, SHAMOOK. Go check out some of the other videos. They're pretty frightening and hilarious. But sorry to interrupt.
No, but I mean, Luke looked great. I mean, I don't think you could do a better looking Luke with the technology we have right now. But the environments look good. The androids were fun. So it was just really, really cool. All right, so I'll only do one more. I've got a whole list of other ones, but I just want to call out Rosario Dawson. And she does Ahsoka's mannerisms. Like every once in a while you catch one and you just have to know some of the material. So she had her arms crossed when she's talking to Din, about, whose reason is it for him to see Grogu and stuff. And she has her arms crossed. And then when she says Padawan, she like kind of holds her hand out, but with like two fingers. And that's totally Ahsoka from Rebels. I mean, just spot on the money. And so it's just little details like that Rosario Dawson really nailed Ahsoka this time around, I think. I mean, she did well before, but I think this one was just really, really spot on. So I'll pause there. There's a whole lot left over, but those are some of the top ones that I think we really had to call out the top of the show. All right.
Okay. All right.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. Here I go. All right. So first and foremost, I would say welcome Dave Filoni. I was, we've been kind of, I wouldn't say critical, but we've certainly been, we've provided feedback that I know he's not listened to, and that's fine. But this was the first time I felt like, okay, he's got it. And I've been saying it's been a little off. The first episode of Mandalorian, a little bit off. A couple of the other episodes he directed, just a little bit off. However, I felt like he was getting better and better. And I think in this episode, we finally saw him, get to the point where he has done something now that stands on its own, and from a live action perspective. I thought the writing was really great. I thought the direction was really great. The only criticism I would have is kind of the way it was jumping around different things. I mentioned to Neil and some other folks here, I just had this like emotional whiplash of going from like excited and happy and sad and excited and happy and sad and scared. I mean, it was just like all over the place, and I couldn't. I think it was fine. I enjoyed the show and I loved the episode. It was just kind of a weird the way it was all kind of laid out. I think you could have probably laid it out differently and it still would have had the same impact, or maybe it would have flowed better. It wasn't necessarily a negative, but it was just too much. Maybe it was just too much for me to take on total. Okay, so I agree with you. The music throughout was amazing, phenomenal. Loved every single bit of that. Luke's deep fake stuff. I think good kudos to them. They went out and hired the guy. They sucked up their pride and acknowledged that, hey, we still can't do what they're doing now with this stuff. So let's just go buy the guy and bring him in. So phenomenal stuff again. And for me, it was like I was constantly focused on it. But I found like it was very different than watching like Tarkin in Rogue One or Leia in Rogue One or Luke at the end of season 2, where I was focused on it, but going, ooh, like, you know what I mean? Like it was, I was getting the negative feelings, and this was like, wow, it was so positive. But, and then after I've watched it now, I don't know, 6-7 times at least, I'm not focused on it. And I'm just enjoying the fact that Luke Skywalker is present. And I start thinking about what does that bode for the, you know, other series and his inclusion in some of the stories that have yet to be told. And that's just extremely exciting for me personally, but I think it really does do a lot to kind of fill in that gap of time that we know that's going to happen and transpire between now and the sequel trilogy.
And then one of the things they really got down for Luke that I think really sold it was he had the very subtle movements in his face and the expressions. They came out and you could see them. And things like that are so critical for making it seem lifelike.
Right.
And some of the movements were just a little bit more natural as well. But just those little expressions can go a really long way.
Yeah. We'll get into this a little bit more. Yeah, no, exactly right. It goes from being a still looking thing to a lifelike looking thing, even though I say thing, it's a person, but we know there's, you know, magic going on there.
Right.
But we'll come back to that because there are a couple other things I want to dig into when we get to Luke's presence and we start going to like the images here a little bit later. So the next one I have is just everybody was in this thing. I mean, you had R2, you had Luke, you had Mando, Ahsoka, Cad Bane, Cobb Vanth. There was Boba Fett in there, even though he was in there a short period of time.
Didn't speak, yeah. So it's just like the original trilogy.
Yeah, and it was. And we keep joking that this is 2 guys playing with their action figures, and they just threw them all out there and said, everybody's in this playtime because we're putting them all in there, and it was just great to see everybody on there. Now on kind of one of my bads, which I'll get to in a second, there's something on the other end of this though that I felt was maybe a bad, and I'll kind of tease that out here a little bit more in just a second. And then I guess the only other thing that I would say is, and again, this is where I feel like it's both a bad and a good, is I seen a lot of people talk about how this episode is now 2 in a row, and we've got no Book of Boba Fett. We've got no Boba Fett really. And it's thrown a lot of people off, and I get it. It's thrown me off too. However, I'm not screaming, crying, bloody murder. I actually really like this. And if it's different, then so be it. I'm fine with it. I don't understand, especially like the critics, right? The critics are all over this thing and saying how blasphemous this is that someone dare call a TV show something and put out, 2 episodes back to back where that titular character is not even in them. And they're like, this isn't the playbook, right? This isn't what we're supposed to do. This isn't television as we've always known it, as we talked about it. And to them, I would say, so what? Are you enjoying the episode? Are you enjoying this, right? Is it because they couldn't call it something else? I don't know. Now that we see this, they definitely had a vision. They mapped all this out. It's not like they're winging this week to week and decide, oh, yeah, no, let's stick Luke in this episode. They have a plan, and there is a rhyme and reason to everything. And we've constantly said this over and over again. Dave Filoni does not do anything. He does everything with a purpose. It may not be apparent right now. It may be apparent 2 seasons from now, maybe apparent later down the road. But I think when you go back and look at some of the decisions he makes with his storytelling, they were all purposeful, and there was a reason. And it's sometimes it's hard to see that right now because we're literally in the forest. But when we're out, I think it'll all make sense down the road. So there's a part of me that certainly gets what people are saying and some of the feedback that's provided, and I think that's fair. However, I have to just remind myself that this is, again, the best Star Wars I think we've seen in a very long time, if not ever. And just go with it. Stop overthinking this. This is a good show. It's good fun. We're seeing some stuff we never thought we would see before. And it's all thanks to a lot of stuff like the technology that we've got available to us these days. So, all right. So I'll get off that little soapbox. Okay, let's get to the bad. Tell me what do you got for the bad?
Well, no, you teased it. Now I want to hear it. The suspense is killing me.
Oh, which one?
I don't know.
So
we don't share this stuff in advance. So
yes, no, and you're going to find out in a little bit why it's something that you're maybe a little shocking to people. But
oh boy.
So here's my first bad. I left this episode going like, well, let me ask you. You left this episode. What's the one thing you want to see in the next episode?
Oh my God.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no,
But
it's kind
I
of a
think a
tough
lot of
question.
people,
I
yeah, no,
mean,
it's a tough question, but I
resolve
think a lot
Cobb
of
Vanth.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, what happened to Cobb Vanth? That's fair. Okay. What about what Grogu decides?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It was a
kind
good
of
cliffhanger in that regard.
really good cliffhanger in that.
Yeah.
I think the problem that I felt like with all these characters and the way they set it up, I've kind of lost my eye on Boba Fett. Like, cool, I want to see what happens, but he's not really, for me personally, he's not like what I'm looking forward to the most now. Like, I'm so all in on this Jedi stuff and the choice and where that's going to go, and it feels like that kind of tabled Boba Fett even more than he
Yeah.
was. Now, again, I know I sound like I'm just contradicting myself to some extent, but I think they're not mutually exclusive. I can like both of them, right? I can feel happy about what we're seeing and at the same time go, wait a minute, I don't know if this is sitting well with me. Like, I don't know where Boba Fett is in this. It feels like he is lost. And is that really a bad thing? I don't know. I'm still kind of conflicted there.
Yeah. And that's a tough one, I think, because you do want it to feel like a cohesive piece. And I think where we ended the chapter 5 was a place that we like, okay, we can come back to this and have some things happen off screen that then we can go explore in its own time. Right.
Hmm.
And so while we're thrilled we got this is what we wanted, right? This is absolutely what we wanted. Maybe not in these shows, but we wanted nonetheless.
Right. Yeah.
But here we are. And this is these are the cards that we're dealt with now. And there's still a lot of, there's still a lot of story to get through for the season finale.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to get through. This thing is just getting amped up. And it makes you wonder, I mean, how they're going to get far enough to resolve enough things through the last episode that, so it actually feels like maybe a group of chapters, maybe like act 1, right? Or
Mhm.
the first half of the story. But I'm thinking this might be more of an act 1.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you, I'm going to say my bad. You're going to hate me, Jonesy. And I'm sorry. I still love you,
Oh,
dude.
you're going to steal my thunder?
I don't know. I don't think so. So
Okay.
one of the bads. So this episode, they went to great lengths to get Luke to look like Luke and to sound like Luke. They went
Yeah.
through great lengths to get Cad Bane to look like Cad Bane and sound like Cad Bane, Boba Fett, etc. Right?
Right.
And I just have a hard time now with Ahsoka. Like, to me, she feels I the mannerisms I get. I'm 100% with you on that, on the mannerisms, but I can't get like this one. To me, it feels like it was more exposed. The look and her voice, and I at one point I just closed my eyes and I just listened to it, and I can't get Ashley Eckstein's voice and the way she does Ahsoka, the way she portrays Ahsoka
Right.
in this for me are just completely different. And I don't know. It's not a negative, right? I mean, I get it. I'm fine with it. I enjoyed it. I had to come up with something other than the fact that I was feeling kind of this weird feeling between, all this stuff going on and Boba Fett getting buried. But
Right.
I don't know. It's just something I can't, I've been trying to be very positive about it. And I know you love it and I'm trying to get there with you, but
Well, no, I mean, I
it's
get
not
it.
working for me. I don't know.
And we've got some things going on in the chat here. Neil was saying, is her voice sounding too tired, And it's something along that. So the timbre is different, right? So the tone of the voice and like Rosario Dawson's got a bit more of a fuller voice where the way that Ashley Eckstein does the voice is, while she's done it more childish in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. As she even gets older, she still has this thinness to the voice, right? And so it's still kind of this airy thing where Rosario Dawson's a little bit further down in the frequency. And I think that's my guess that's part
It
of
is
it
part
for
of it.
you.
No, I'm
Yeah.
with you. It does. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
And yeah, I mean, so I think it's fair. It's a fair assessment. I struggle with it at times too, but I just try to get over it. I'm like, well, she's the one playing it, so can I get far
Yeah.
enough into it that I feel like that she's doing a good job, or she's doing, and so she's doing all the other things I think right, and she doesn't really have much of a choice over the voice part, but
And the costume, right? I mean, she's whatever. They're telling her what to wear and all
yeah,
that. Even
the pants still bother me a little bit, like
the MC Hammer pants
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
look.
those are not quite what I would expect, but then again, she wore coveralls in the last season of the Clone
Right,
Wars.
Clone Wars. Yeah. Okay, so that's all my bad, and it's really that's a small bad in all perspective. But
Okay.
do you have anything else before we get on to the ugly?
Yeah, the bad one. I got to bring it up. Yoda's
Okay.
lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
This one kind of, I'm trying not to let it bother me because those that don't know, in Darth Vader second volume issue 1, they have a lightsaber burning party on Coruscant, and
right in front of the temple. I thought.
right,
I'm
yeah,
not
right,
mistaken.
yeah, or not in the Capitol, I think.
Was it in the Capitol?
I think so.
Either
Yeah.
way, sorry.
So anyway, Masameda, like they show holding up, and it's clearly Yoda's lightsaber, and he throws it into the pyre, and then the whole thing ignites. You know, the kyber crystals just ignite into this giant thing. There's other things going on with Vader and Palpatine at the same time, but that's what happened to Yoda's lightsaber. And then now we have this. It says this is Yoda's lightsaber. So I don't know if that was they're kind of rewriting. And I thought about tweeting Charles Soule about it, but I didn't want to be those people. So I just voiced it in Discord, and I was that guy. And I put screenshots of the issue, of course. But
Yeah,
so that
a lot
one
of
was a
screenshots.
little bit, off-putting, and we had some fun comments in Discord, like, "Oh, it's Yaddle's, or that Yaddle's got destroyed, but Yoda's is good."
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I don't. Yeah, I know we got some comments that may have been fake. I've heard that one before too, and I just don't.
I don't think so. I don't think they would go. I mean, that seems too like
The intent of the
just-
comic was for it to be like those symbols of the Jedi to be destroyed, and for them to truly feel free, in the eyes of the Empire. And so, and the other thing that bothered me just a little bit was the Cad Bane, just the mouth part was just a little bit. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to go look at the Clone Wars because I was watching this like 17 or 18 times. But that part was a little off-putting, but I just kind of chalked that up to it's Cad Bane. Oh, he didn't have a toothpick. There you go. That was the other thing.
Yeah, right. That's what I was wondering too. I started thinking about that, and again, I probably overthought this one, but I thought if they put the toothpick in his mouth, he's got to get it out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you look at his hands when he goes back to reach for his blaster, or at least put his hand near his blaster, yeah, he had the little strange phalanges going on there, like the old Rhodians have.
Yeah.
So that would have been awkward because then they would have to unless they. And I was thinking, well, maybe they could pull back and just show him pull it out right from far away. But if they were anywhere close, that would look really awkward with his fingers, kind of like.
Yeah, it wouldn't have
this
worked.
thing.
So I know why they didn't do it, but that's such a cool part of his character, especially when they have the showdown in the street. That would have been so fun. Take it out, flick it. So those were my bads.
Okay, I only have one ugly, and I'll make it quick so we can get on with the show here. But the deputy's death, like a horrible death. I mean, and it just the way he died, it was ugly in that sense. What a dork. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Like, my goodness, that's the best guy you had. But what was your?
Mine was Garza Flip's security, and Boba's watchful eye was a bunch of BS for what happened at her in her little palisade there.
Yeah, I had to pour one out for her, man. I don't know what.
I know
I'm
you
still
were
conflicted.
I could have a feeling that you were pretty sad.
Pretty upset. Yeah.
I'm surprised one of your goods wasn't. You actually put Freeport in the notes. I fixed it for you.
Oh, did I?
It was like Freeport's a
Freetown.
town here in the Houston area.
Oh, that's why I'm thinking of Freeport. Yeah.
Yeah, I joked with Albert that I could hear him shouting Freetown all the way from Houston, and we live like 3 hours apart, all the way from here in the middle of the night.
2:30 in the morning. Although I did text you when the show was out. And
his texts were a classic, folks. I do have to. I wish I could just read it, but anyway, he's like, "Dude, wake up! Watch this episode right now. Call in work sick. Call in dead. Just watch this when you get up. Don't do anything until you watch this episode." But
yeah,
it was very funny. I liked it.
I couldn't contain myself. Okay, let's do this. Let's roll into the episode, and let me get that up here so that we can actually see it. And we open with again, this is another one where we just like jumped right in, and here we had Cobb Vanth out of the gate. I'm like, oh yes, here we go with Cobb Vanth. And he's warning these Pikes here that they've wandered a bit too far. Well, did I skip? Oh, sorry, I was looking at these earlier. That's why. Sorry about that. Let me back up here. Here we go. There we go. There's that one. We get into the deal that's going on here. Tons of credits in that Camtono, which I think was supposed to throw us off because later on unless those are explosive coins of some sort. And then we've got the container there with
These were the chocolate ones.
Yeah, right. Gold doubloons is what they are. So here we go. When Cobb Vanth comes in, I love these angles, right? That lower angle is just so, Sergio Leone. Like, by the way, sorry, 1 second. This was like the whole episode was like Sergio Leone spaghetti Western Star Wars style. And I loved every aspect. I think the only thing that was missing is we didn't get any like spaghetti Western music or even the stuff that was done in, what was it?
We got flavors of it though.
We did, but I'm saying in in that battle between Cad Bane and Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, it was just
there was
missing one.
none. Now that said, I really enjoyed it. I love the fact that it was silent because it just added to the suspense for me in a lot of ways. But I think that was and by the way, there have been people already now that have threw on some of that spaghetti western music and have put them out there, and it's really cool. I mean, it's a different take. It's a different. It hits you a little differently. But sorry.
Nice.
So okay, so we get this guy. Look at again, the best hair product in the galaxy, bar none. If he can get his hair to stand up like this on Tatooine,
Pretty nice kerchief too. Yeah.
yeah, I like the shirt. It's got a texture to it.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
He's got stripes now.
Yeah,
the
that
belt
was
buckles, yeah.
right. It was good stuff. Man, I'm telling you, everything that Timothy Oliphant is doing with this character is
It's pretty
just
awesome.
pretty awesome. My goodness. Like even those little hand gestures, I needed to capture that. You know, he's like this, everything over to there, you know, there. The way he's delivering his lines, the way he carries himself, the way he walks. I mean, it's just like, I mean, and I get it. He was doing, what was the Western show that he was doing there for a while?
Oh,
What do you know? Somebody knows. Put it in the
Yeah.
chat there. But yeah, I mean, so he's got some, it's not the first time he's done this kind of character before.
where was
but
the
I like-
other speeder though? So they have 4 of these guys, and they look like they met up, but there's only one speeder. Where'd the other ones come from?
I don't know.
Oh, they're
Stop overthinking this, Jonesy. Remember, that's what I said.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't show up anywhere in here. Maybe they walked it. Who knows? Justified.
Justified.
Thank you.
Not that way.
Or
Justified.
was Justified.
There we go.
There we go. There's 2. So and then there's again, this is Filoni. Like he's doing more of these long shots, which are very, for me, they evoke like the George Lucas style,
Right.
and just kind of that time frame. A lot of those directors were doing very far long shots, cutting away and cutting back to them. This guy decides he's going to pull out a blaster, and this whole scene was kind of set up for me. I mean, it establishes that Cobb Vanth's going to be in here, but this really, for me, said, look how quick he is,
Mhm.
and later on, look how quick Cobb Vanth or Cad Bane really is, right?
Right.
Much faster at him, but yeah, he's able. This guy goes for his blaster, and we get that little quick duel here.
The think it through.
Yeah, the think it through. I really like that line. I don't know where that came from, but he got to say it twice in the span of about 60 seconds, which I
That's
thought
right.
was pretty cool.
I like it. I could see you're the smart one.
Right. There he is saying think it through. This is the dude that makes it, and he tells him that he can, that he wants to leave. He tells him to leave that. Now, he doesn't go for the coins,
Right.
which that was interesting. But he tells him to leave the chest, and that's payment for trespassing and,
Fine.
causing us
Yeah, the
fines.
fine.
Yeah.
So they still got paid, but yeah, they didn't get to keep the spice, even though the other guys were dead.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
then we
love
get
this
into
shot here
him.
too.
Yeah, I mean, there's good stuff there. This is all very much like
I'm with you. Filoni really did a great job directing this episode.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the more you watch it, I think the more you really start to appreciate it. And I've got other things that I've got in here for like screenshots of things that aren't necessarily big moments,
Mhm.
but they're just visually very beautiful to look at. And that's why I
Right.
said, welcome Dave Filoni. Like I don't know where he pulled a lot of this stuff out, but he's got it now. This is our first time seeing spice as far as I can recall. Like
No,
actually seeing it.
There was some from the train. Remember when they
Was
got it
it?
off and it
Oh,
it
yeah, and it
opened blew?
spilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, maybe this close up. It's almost like I got a gold.
Pretty sure the Tuscans were also doing a little spice.
Yeah, well. And we get the title. Longest title of any Star Wars episode ever. Okay. We quickly then flash to this, which as I'm watching this going, oh my God, we are going back. Because I said that we
Yeah.
probably wouldn't come back to this. I was thinking we were going to go back to Boba Fett and this dude was just going to show up at some point with Grogu and we'd maybe get that as a backstory. Well, that turned out to not be the case.
Oh.
And
Once again, they told you what they're going to do.
yep, and they did it.
And we got the crotch cam.
Crotch cam looking pretty good here. I love the shot and everything about. And I know we talked about the music, but the sounds that are coming, like emanating from this N1 as it's flying.
Mhm.
I mean, it just evokes that whole like sense of World War II planes. You can almost hear like the actual turbines spinning on the old propeller engines, if you will. And
Right.
you gotta think that George Lucas somewhere is smiling at this stuff and loving
mixed
it.
mixed with a muscle car every time it does a flyby. Yeah.
Yep. There is someone, I can't remember. I think it was Utini Dante in Discord who had asked, whether, where was this shot from? Like this camera angle. Because he had said he had seen it before, and I said Top Gun. I know that's Top Gun had it. I think Iron Eagle had it. If you're really old and remember those movies. But I went back and looked at Red Tails because I was thinking, oh, maybe Red Tails is where there's a throwback to some of the shots there. I watched the entire movie beginning to end, and they never had this shot in there. I say that because it wasn't the best movie, but it was still enjoyable, and it was a George Lucas film for anybody that doesn't know. So,
right.
All right. Anyways, here we go. He's flying in. Where is this planet? Is that what was it? What planet is this? Was it said? It was not said. We'll get to it here in a little bit, but I do think this is supposed to imply that this is the planet, and it's got a name because it was in the novel, I think, where Luke built his first Jedi temple. But more on that here in a little bit. This is my background. I just thought this was beautiful the way it's
cool.
laid out, the inside of it, and then like.
Oh man, as soon as we saw the antenna.
Yeah, exactly. Like that one antenna is so iconic. I mean, it's just crazy. So seeing R2 again, I mean, that was just, gave me chills. Awesome. I mean, this episode again was just kind of hit you in the feels over and over and over and over again, and it pull you down and pick you up, pull you down, pick you up. Good stuff. Here he is. He's landing now, and I love the fact that we're getting a shot here of R2 on one side and this N1, this tripped out N1 starfighter there. And then who would have thought we would see this? You got Mando meeting R2 in this way. Right. Two iconic figures now. And this bubble, like this little cockpit part here on that ship continues to stick out like a sore thumb. Like if they don't put that little baby Yoda in that thing, then I'm going to be really upset because they are teasing that, in my opinion. It just stands out there so much.
Right.
I got a quick question for you. And sure. We were going to talk about this in the last episode. Last episode, and we didn't get a chance to because I just blew right over it and it was in the show notes. And I'm curious to hear what people in the chat have to say as well. But we had the Razor Crest. Does anybody want to take a guess at what he's going to call the starfighter? And before I've got 30 seconds because there's a delay. I had already said it was going to be the Razor Blade, so you can't pick Razor Blade. That was my choice, but. I'm curious to see. Do you have any thoughts, or what are your theories on what he's going to call this thing, or does he let Grogu name it?
But he can't understand Grogu, so it would just be a coup.
There you go.
Just be something strange like a coup. No, I'm terrible with naming things, unless there's really silly, stupid stuff. So I want to see what everybody else is going to say here. Ash had a question if this is the N1 that Anakin flew, and no, Albert showed last week the markings and everything are totally different.
Yeah, they're close. I mean, they have some of the similar markings, but it's not a one like for like. And I even went and looked at all the other Naboo starfighters, at least in episode 1. And I know there was some in Clone Wars, though. Wasn't there? I'm pretty sure there was. There was a scene where they were on Naboo. And but
I mean, the Naboo used them forever. So,
all right. Well, they're coming in. Fire spray. Nice try. That's not
Razor
happening.
Wizard.
Razor Wizard.
Silver Blade. Kind of like that one.
Silver Blade. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Those of you who are brave enough to share your names in there. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to this episode here. These guys walking. The fact that there was bamboo as well. I mean, we've been talking about that whole Japanese motif and the samurais, and it's just appropriate. It feels fitting that he would decide to build this temple here on this planet, given it's got some of those same similarities. I like this part here where R2 turned around. He stopped because he was watching that ant droid kind of come over the hill. And if you watch closely, R2 spins around. He beeps at him like, "Hey, bud, come on, let's go. We're moving still." Right?
Well, I still like it that R2 basically talks. Anytime that he, when Din lands and said he's here to see the kid, he's like, "Oh," and then starts leading him off. And
yeah, right.
Even when he's waiting for Ahsoka, he's saying, "I want to see the kid." He's like, "Uh-oh."
Sorry, more names are coming in. Nabooty Hunter. I don't know what that means. The Wizard. Oh, then Risk is just going crazy here. We got Razor Stubble, the Corkscrew, the Italian Stallion, the USS Enterprise. Okay, now you guys are just getting silly. Razor Runner. All right, we'll take it.
Alex,
Androids.
this is a kid show.
Yeah, no, I had to stop. Some of these are not appropriate. What did you What do you think about this? Like,
I thought
the fact that it's
cool,
being built
actually.
by droids, too.
I thought it was pretty neat, actually. I thought it was I was like, how would you build this and how would he do it? So it makes sense that they have helper droids that do these things. I thought it was super cute that it was ants though,
Mhm.
because yeah, I mean, what would it be?
The
I like that they built the bench too. I was like, as soon as they started laying the rocks, I'm like, oh, they're gonna make a bench. This is
yeah,
great.
he had some pretty good one-liner comedic moments in here too. I thought were pretty good.
Anyone
Um,
alive?
yeah, right. Is that a bench? Um, so if you look at this, the beginning here of it, and later on we get the full feature of it. You know, once it's complete, and he and
Right.
Grogu, Luke and Grogu are sitting inside of it. It doesn't look exactly like anything that we saw in The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi and the flashback scenes of the temple. However, it's hard to say because that's all set in very darkness. Of course, there's a lot of trees and everything around here. You would think they would probably deforest this area if they were going to continue to build and expand. So I think one of the maybe key takeaways is I thought it was interesting that when I first saw this, I was like, wow, he's building these things to look just like the ones over on Octo.
Right.
Um, which one of two things have either happened: either he's already gone to Octo, he's visited, and he's inspired in some way, or in some of those ancient Jedi texts, in somewhere there was the chapter of how to build your temple, right? And in the floor plans, it said you must build them as domes or something, or he was
Right.
inspired from some of the books that or whatever that he found
But
there.
be
But
wary they leak. It's fine.
right, yeah, they don't.
Well, but it makes sense, right? So we know that Luke, after Return of the Jedi, was going on a quest to find artifacts of the Jedi and kind of
Mhm.
recover the history of the Jedi. So it makes perfect sense that he would come across something, or even come across Octo and be able to start replicating some of those items. But I didn't see the text anywhere inside the temple, though.
No, no, I didn't either. RT
R2D2
shuts,
shutting
yeah,
down when you need him most.
a little stinker. But again, yeah, I thought this was good stuff from him. Waving at him, hello, are you there? There's the bench that you were talking about getting built. Um, and
Nice
then him
bench.
screaming about whether or not anybody was alive. This is all good stuff. I really enjoyed it. And then he being Dave Filoni, he transitions from that to 3 shots back to back that I felt were, again, really good stuff. And it's just kind of like he's setting the tone here, right? I mean, we get back to nature. We're going into the force now, and he's showing us the trees and the leaves and the light. I mean, this is all like there's a lot of symbolism here that I don't want to start picking at just yet, but
But yeah, balance, basically.
yeah. Again, this is really good stuff. This reminds me of that scene from Raiders in the opening of Raiders when they're
It
running
does.
through the trees there. And then this is the fourth shot where we finally get you can see very faintly out there in the distance, Grogu and Luke Skywalker. And this is, so we can talk about the CGI here just a little bit. This is our first reintroduction to Luke Skywalker post season 2, the last episode there of Mandalorian. And I know we've already talked about it enough, but I mean, there was just really great moments here of the way he looked, and comparatively to obviously Return of the Jedi. Um, Everything from the outfit. I don't know what they did to like. Maybe Hamill slimmed down, but there were, and some of it
Oh,
was
there was still a body double.
was there really? Because
Yeah.
he was lit. I didn't see him listed in the credits. I only saw Hamill listed in the credits.
Yeah, there was another one that was in there.
Okay, that makes more
I can't
sense.
remember what it was. Yeah, but
That's fine.
they had a body double.
So I would imagine though they had to have filmed. I would imagine they filmed Hamill doing the scenes right to get the deep fake stuff off of him. That's how I would do it, right? Rather than going
Right.
to why go pull old footage when you can just reshoot that stuff and clean it up or make it younger or whatever. But the voice was something that was, and we didn't really talk about this. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a negative, but there were times it did sound a little odd, like he was speaking a little too slowly. And I couldn't tell if that was because they were trying to make him sound more, I don't know, more of a master, right? Uh, or whatever that is, or that was because they were using some kind of synthetic processing to get his tone to come down. Because Hamill sounds his tone is very much deeper now than what it was back in
Right.
1983.
As you get older, your voice deepens, of course. Your
Yeah.
vocal cords loosen. But yeah, it was a little bit, and I was wondering how they did it, if they modulated it in kind of way in order to get that less of the gravelly tone that Mark Hamill has these days, and more of that, younger, more vibrant, more kind of a narrower field there.
Mhm.
But overall, it did okay though. I thought it was fine. It wasn't super distracting once you saw this a couple of times, and and again, you weren't busy looking at other things, so you notice the voice a little bit more, I think. So it's, again, kind of a testament to how good the CGI was, that you start noticing the voice more than you start noticing any of the features being off.
Yeah. And then it's
Grogu
this,
always thinking with his stomach.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's him and Chewbacca are like, spirit
Like his
friends in
thieves,
some way.
yeah.
Yeah, always thinking like that. And it's funny because he tries to go back to his meditation, his studies, and he just can't help himself. And I think it's right here on the next one. He pops his little left eye open to see if that frog is still there. Really great stuff on the puppeteering. Like, there were moments when I was watching this and going, "Oh, that's a puppet. It's a puppet." But again, I didn't care because I kept saying the same thing. When you go back and watch Empire all day,
Right.
every day, that's a puppet. But it's through the mannerisms and the story, right? It's so compelling that you transcend all that. So this was really good too. Just him, like, the sheer joy on his face as he's about to pop this little frog in his mouth. This was this whole scene. When he said that, and he's like Grogu. It was very similar to the way he said. It was that whole scene on Empire when he meets
Right.
Yoda and the way he talks to him.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do that, right?
Nope.
We get the little whiny Luke again, but it's more of a kind of like, you're annoying but cute kind of thing. And so I just really loved it. I thought it was really good stuff. But his facial expressions here are really good too.
Yeah. So what did you think about Luke raising all of the frogs? Like, what did you take from that, the symbolism?
I took two things from that, and I have it here. This is where he does it. You can kind of see it now. He's got him up. For me, there are a lot of parallels between the training montages that are kind of happening here over the next, 20 minutes of the show, this episode, 30 minutes of this episode.
Right.
There are a lot of parallels to the training that Luke went through on Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Some of them are shot for shot. Some of them are just kind of in spirit. This one for me, I put it in the show notes, and I know you hadn't seen that part of it, but I kind of felt like this was the X-wing, right? This was his version of the X-wing, or this was Grogu's version of seeing the X-wing that Luke saw being lifted, right? And showing him and teaching him that, look, yeah, you can raise one frog, but look how powerful the Force really is, right? You can lift all the frogs if you really want to. So I think that was first and foremost a lesson. But I do wonder now if later down the road, as we get into maybe in this next episode, or we get into chapter 3 of The Mandalorian, or season 3 of The Mandalorian, that at some point when Grogu is confronted with Pikes or somebody else, he's going to use this same method here to kind of lift everybody up, right? Because this is something that he's been learned and taught. So there may be some foreshadowing that's happening here when he actually goes and uses the Force.
So so that was the literal, I think, thing, but it just felt out of place a little bit. Like, why would he just all of a sudden raise all of them when Grogu was doing just fine with the one? And because it almost kind of felt like showing off. So what I took from it, or what I thought was another alternative way of thinking about it, is that while the disappointment Grogu has it, like not getting one, there are still so many other frogs that they're still there, right? That's not the only one. You don't have to go through disappointment or give in to that moment. Look, there's plenty of frogs you can eat later, like after you're done, like with your meditation or your focus, whatever you're doing now, remain your focus here rather than keep getting distracted, which seems to be a trend for Grogu.
Yeah. I like that. That's a little bit deeper, but whatever.
Thank you for taking it seriously.
No, I'm being serious. No, it is. It's like I hadn't thought of that aspect of it, right? Of like, okay, you didn't get this one, but look at all these other, you didn't get this opportunity. There's plenty more, right? It's kind of like that. Get back up, always get back up a little bit later, that he gives them. So, and you can see it. I don't know if you can tell, you can't see it on the screen, but watch his little mouth and face. It's just so cute when he's like so happy that all these frogs are sitting there floating in the air.
Right. But again, it goes back to what Yoda was saying though, too. Never focusing on what he was doing, right? Always looking to the stars, looking for something else, looking for something to eat, apparently. Also fits.
Yeah.
Plenty of frogs in the pond. Thank you, Tor.
Yeah. But yeah, because then at the very end of that, he looks at his hand and looks and goes, wow.
Yeah.
Kind of like, can I do that with this hand? Like, again, I think it was just him showing him that you can do a lot more than lift one frog if you really put your mind to it.
Right.
This is when they go on the walk.
I love the way that he helps him forward.
Everybody. It's just, come on. You can't
make
this stuff up.
I
want somebody to pull me along with.
I know, right? It's like when you have a kid and you're like swinging them, trying not to separate their shoulder. when they're swinging between their parents.
Right. We also get Yoda's theme during this moment,
Yeah.
which I thought was really good because he's talking about Yoda here, and he's talking about Yoda being just like him. He was small but had a huge heart. He talked about the size matters not, and this is all kind of this little lesson that we're getting here, as you can kind of see. And I as much as I love all this, like I really hope we come back to this. Or
Yeah.
there was so much more that I would love to see of conversations. Not here, not only this one. We'll get to the Ahsoka Luke conversation because felt that was kind of a bit of a letdown for me. But I'll explain why here in just a second. But this is where he goes into. He says, do you remember home? Right? Would you like to remember home? And I thought, holy bananas, are we really going to do the one thing that has been so sacred in Star Wars and never disclose, like, what race Yoda is or where he came from? And because he said go back home, and I'm thinking,
Right.
well, his home planet. But we didn't. We went back to
the temple.
Order 66 of all things, right? We go back to one of the worst things a very traumatic thing that happened.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is too. I like the special effect that they got here. I was trying to capture it. And it's just so quick. I couldn't get it, but
it was very much like the vision that Anakin had of Padme dying.
That's true. Right. It's got it on the sides, all around it. I'm wondering if at some point we are going to get more and more flashbacks. Maybe when we get into Mandalorian season 3, assuming that they pair back up again,
right.
Maybe it's his flashbacks that we get now. And this is the same look that we're going to get, for that once it happens. All right, let's talk about Order 66. I say that with a bit of reverence.
Right.
But
it was so cool to see clone troopers and Jedi like in this moment, live action. I thought this was really, really cool.
This was really, really good.
I mean, those are probably all CGI stormtroopers, but still.
You think so?
Yeah, I think they might have been.
Yeah, at the very end, one of them moved pretty well. Okay, so let's talk about so these are definitely 501st stormtroopers. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if you can tell here once they zoom in on them, or you can see them right there too. So 501st. So we know this is Vader's group coming in, storming the castle, if you will. There's been a lot of speculation about who these are. We can talk about what's her name, Offie.
Oh, Barriss Offie.
Yeah, Barriss Offie, because of the symbol. I didn't want to do it and dig into it because I really don't feel like this is it has anything to do with her.
No,
because that symbol was used in the Clone Wars and just for other things, not just her.
Right.
Although it has the diamond pattern on it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can't really see it. But on the far right hand side here and the far left hand side of this image, when you're watching the Jedi fight off the clone troopers, you can see what looks like a crest of some sort. And there was all this controversy because the crest was removed from Wikipedia. The entry was completely deleted. And then they had to have somebody come on from Wikipedia and explain, no, it's not that. It's just it got slammed because everybody started looking at it. And there were some people were making edits and corrections to it. And so they just pulled it, right? Mm-hmm. So that caused a whole bunch of controversy of like, oh my gosh, somehow we've uncovered this spoiler and they're trying to cover it all up. I just don't buy into any of that stuff. But I guess what I want to ask you is, do you have any faith in that these are anybody that we've seen before in terms of the Jedi? And who are these Jedi? Like, have they been sworn to protect Grogu? Is it just a matter of they were there in that area? And then maybe even at this point, we can speculate on who would have rescued Grogu, given now that we have a little bit of context of how kind of this went down.
Yeah, and I'm actually wondering if Grogu was this close and right there, and it's not just a vision of the events. I think that's another alternative that physically he wasn't quite there, because even when the clone troopers say, go, 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 they don't reference that there's another one. They were just like a go in advance, and they're not looking at him at all. So again, I think it was more he was at the temple and he witnessed the stuff. But I think these are all kind of no-name Jedi, because all the ones that we know were named, A, don't look like this, and B, have either been accounted for in other ways in other material. So I don't think any of these, and the whole Barriss Offie thing, I don't think any of these are Barriss Offie, because Barriss Offie would not have been defending the temple.
No, she was.
Yeah, she was in prison at the very least. Yeah.
So
I think it's I think it's more of a vision for Grogu than necessarily him being attacked, because clearly someone would have to show up, but yeah. Kanan saves him. Kanan was a kid with his master off world when Order 66 happened. Sorry.
So William George just chimed in and said Mace Windu saves him. That's who I was thinking, but it's so to get there would be really tough.
I
But
don't think that's possible. Yeah.
I've had weirder theories though. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole list of people
Oh
who could
yeah,
have
there
done it.
is.
Yeah,
Right. No, there really is.
yeah, because there were
When I
still a number of
saw,
Jedi on Coruscant that lived.
yeah, when I saw this shot, and I didn't get a very good picture of it, but I almost thought this was Jocasta New because she's got the same kind of hairstyle and a bun. But when you look at the way when she turns after in this moment, you can tell it definitely is not her. But
Yeah, well, Jocasta
upon
New
that first
survived
viewing,
though too,
yeah, well, yeah, but
unscathed.
it's not the first time they've not retconned anything either.
Oh yeah, I mean they don't retcon comics. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like they could have just, but you would think if they were going to retcon her, they would have shown her in some way, like
Yeah,
made it very apparent this is Jocasta New.
yeah, and she's got very remarkable clothing, so that you would remember, you would notice it because she's got very different tabards and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, see, they're kind of pointing over him, so that's why I don't think that Grogu was actually there, because
How
he's
would he
way too
see
close
this?
to them for not just to shoot him. Like, why not just point at it and shoot him otherwise?
Yeah, true.
So unless there's others coming behind him, and then that's how they get saved. But yeah, I think we're gonna come back to this at some point.
I do too. I believe that we are. So can't wait. Okay. He comes to, and he's like nowhere near where they started. They're now in front of a lake, which is fine. And this is where he starts talking about how he's going to go ahead and teach Grogu to protect himself, and
Right.
we're going to get
Dangerous place. Yeah.
dangerous place. Yeah. We cut away, come back to Mando sleeping there. R2's awake, and then he hears the branch snap or whatever. Wakes up, and there's Ahsoka, who I was not expecting to see in this episode.
No, I was not either.
Which is great. The fact that she was here.
It was so
'Cause then I
cool to
started-
see. It was so cool to see her with R2E.
Yeah, I've got a R2E. I've got a picture of that because it is pretty a special moment for anybody that's a Clone Wars fan. But the minute I saw her, I thought, well, wait a second. Now we've got Ahsoka and Luke on the same planet, so they have met. I mean, we kind of speculated they had or had not. But then I thought, well, crap, I'm not going to get and this is where I said I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Like I really wanted to see what that was like and that relationship and how the conversation started. And we got more of this a little bit later about, she makes a comment here about she's a friend of the family, which I thought was cute. Later on, she talks about, you're just like your father. I don't know. There's a part of me that really wanted that for so long.
She's
to
having
kind
her
of
own series though, so I think we're still going to get that.
You think so?
I think so. I think there's more story there. Clearly, she has to meet him. I mean, friend of the family. I presume at some point she's going to know who saved the galaxy, and she's going to see Skywalker, and she's going to go find him, right? Or
you're saying it's going to be a
looking.
flashback?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, why not? Or it depends on where Ahsoka picks up, of course. But I don't see why not. Like we wouldn't see that meeting on screen.
I was thinking this was going to be like Ahsoka would be after this. Like I feel like this is all kind of part of one big story that they're telling. I don't know if they would go back unless it's a flashback.
Right. I mean, the flashbacks. The flashbacks worked in Boba Fett, right? So with all the Tuscans and everything. So why it seems to me like that would be something they would continue on.
Okay, well, I'm holding out hope. You've given me hope now that we're going to see this. So you're the first person I'm calling if it doesn't happen.
Okay, I'll be sure to send you to the complaint department.
It's the same number as our HR department, or same number as our. So anyway, she wakes up. Let me go to the next little picture that we got here. Smiling. There's that scene. I didn't do this, but someone actually, there's several images of her in the Clone Wars where she's doing the same kind of gesture to R2. And that's what I said. Like she did her homework. She definitely did her homework on this stuff here. Here's where we get both of them kind of looking at it. She's explaining that someday this is going to be that first temple and Grogu's going to be the first student. Don't think that's going to happen, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I think she was saying some of that though to kind of gauge his reaction too. She would say things like that and she'd kind of glance over.
Yeah.
Just kind of waiting for it to stir something in him. Because she clearly, because she intercepted him, right?
Yeah.
Because he wants to see the kid. And she goes, I know. That's why R2 brought you to me instead.
Yeah. R2 is always awesome. like, nah, buddy, you're not going straight to the top
He's like, and if you piss me off, I will set this entire thing on fire with my boosters,
with
my
boosters and oil.
Right.
Okay, so they go for a walk here. And this is it was like dad wanting to see his kid. He sent his kid off to boarding school, and he's now visiting the campus and wants to see it. And the teachers are telling him, no, you can't. You got to kind of leave him alone.
Pedro Pascal has been nailing that emotional voice.
Mhm.
We saw it last episode, and then this one, like just when he talks about Grogu, it's almost like he's getting choked up.
Yeah.
In a way, and that especially when he's looking up at him on the cliff and talking about him and wanting to see him. I came all this way. I mean, it just breaks your heart because you could feel it. And his performance has been really, really good.
Oh yeah, like this is some of the best stuff he's done as Mando. Honestly,
I think so. I mean, these 2 episodes probably best 2 that he's done. Period. Yeah.
Yep. She says, I warned you when we met. Your attachment to Grogu would be difficult to let go of.
Right.
And then he kind of goes into this thing where he's like, hey, but he's a foundling and he's a Mandalorian, and I'm just here to check in on him and that sort of thing. And she does feel him out. Like she's kind of like, I don't know. I don't really understand her intent here. There is something that escapes me a little bit, and I've had a chance to watch it several times now, and I guess I can go a couple different ways about what her motive is, because she's like, I don't interfere with anything, but at the same time, she really is making a case for like, you don't need to interfere with him. Like it's really bad if you do. So although she may not be directly making a choice for him about whether or not to see him, it feels like passive aggressive. Like, look how awesome that he is. And he's doing all these things. And I know you're here, but that's really, are you really here for him kind of thing? And she's like, if you want to see him, so be it. But,
as he walks away,
I didn't get, yeah, exactly. You tell me, you're better at picking up on this stuff, I think, than I am at times. But
so I think she was hoping that I think she wanted to give him the opportunity to say what was on his mind, say the things, but also allow him to make those choices. And she was just presenting the questions because anybody, and you have psychology with work and everything too. You don't ever want to just tell people the answers all the time because they're more likely to resist it, right, and push back. But if you guide them along and they come to the answer themselves, it's a lot more effective. And they remember that lesson. And ultimately, I don't think she would have let him go up there. She wouldn't have stopped him. But I think he's unable to see it from Grogu's perspective, or even from Luke's perspective, the Jedi perspective of what this might mean, because I think he also just wants to validate that Grogu misses him and remembers him. And so I think those are a bit more self-centered emotions of what he wants, even though Grogu, clearly, wanted to, probably wanted to see him as well. But I think it was more of that. I think just trying to get him to lead him to the right answer, because it would be very, very difficult. And Grogu likely would have regressed significantly, after. We don't know how long they've been apart here, but that regression would be very, very real.
Yeah. You can definitely see him struggling. I've not been keeping up because we're going here, but this is where she's kind of talking about some of that we just mentioned. And there's here where he's like, I just need to give this to him, right? He's a foundling. It's his right to have this little gift or whatever.
This may have been my favorite exchange of the episode.
Yeah,
him saying he was a foundling, and she's like, foundling, and this is where she crosses her arms and does. Yeah, there you go.
The Padawan piece. Yeah.
Maybe he's a Padawan now. And it was like, oh, okay. I think that's where like Din is like, oh man, this is tough. Yeah.
He really struggles here. Like you can visually see him struggling. You could hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
I put there's a heartbreaking pause that happens here. Then he's like, well, either way, the armor will protect him. So I probably need to get it to him.
Right. I love it though. She's like, well, if that's what you wish, he's like, all right.
Yeah. And this is I came all this way.
This was so heartbreaking. Yeah. But because he knows what the right answer is. And he knows it's just doing it for himself. And while he does want Grogu to be safe and protected, he also wants to be the one to do it. And it's also just a lever to pull, or a lever, however you want to say it, in order for him to go and actually see him.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I get the message of, look, it's tough for both of you. There is a deep connection here. And there's a part of me that thinks that, well, maybe she is truly trying to be objective here and saying, look, we need him to kind of decide ultimately what's going to be best for him. He being Grogu, right? And
Mhm.
so he's seen the Mando way, he's seen that life, and now, we're trying to give him the perspective of what this would be like. And then based on that, as long as, and you coming in is going to interfere with that, right? You're going to undo some of that stuff or whatever emotionally. So I do kind of see that maybe that's how she was kind of going about this, which
Right.
I think is cool. Look at, I mean, they're like fist bumping out there. Come on. Why do you have to show that? Mando's sitting there watching his kid fist bumping the second daddy that's stepping in now. That's not cool.
Is this
Um,
where yeah, so is this where, God, what was the other there was another part of the conversation, and I'm drawing a blank and I don't see it in the notes. Yeah, the choices, but there was something else about it. I'll think about it here in a minute.
oh yeah. Well, she makes that comment about, I don't, that, where was it? Something about this, she doesn't get in the way of choices is what she said. Cause you
Right.
asked the
Oh,
question in here.
right, yeah, because yeah, so this is with the training. You said you weren't gonna train, the kid. Why do you support Luke doing it?
Mhm.
And she's like, "Well, that was Luke's choice to do it." And you clearly see she doesn't agree with with the decision that he's made, and there's likely numerous reasons for that. But I thought that was another interesting exchange there of clearly uncomfortable question that he asked of why she would not be okay with it, but then he would. And I think again, this kind of speaks to, and I think some of her ability to shrug some of that off though is that because the Jedi are in such short supply and there's just none of them out there, very few of them. There's a need to rebuild and to bring anybody that's force sensitive together in order to see if they can rekindle the order and and bring that back to life. So it's a conflicting type of moment for her, I think.
Yeah. He hands her the little thing there and basically says, make sure that he stays protected. It comes off sincere, but there was a part of me thinking like that. It's almost like a threat. Like, fine, I'm giving you this thing, but you know, that's my kid. And if I hear something go wrong, there's
Right.
going to be hell to pay.
Yeah. It's like he's pointing the finger at her almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was, Michael had said that I think they showed Grogu felt his presence. And yeah, you definitely see it here in this next shot as the, razor blade, takes off. You can see he's reaching out for him there. And Luke feels him too, because I think he mentions a little bit later, hey, the Mandalorian was here too. So yeah, I would
Right.
definitely think that they could suddenly feel that presence and that pull at that point. Here we get back to Luke and them, and this is where the music was just beautiful from here on out. This whole sequence, several sequences back to back, the music was really phenomenal. But this is that whole jump thing, right?
Right.
Jump, and he gives him the 1 inch vertical, and he's like, "Really, that's the best you got?" Really good stuff there. I thought that was really cute stuff that
What do you
they.
think of Luke's teaching methods here? This has been a point of contention, I think, of kind of well, that's an interesting screenshot you got there. That was a little
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
But what do you think of his methods here?
In what way? Like
He's pretty rigid, I think.
well, yeah, but I mean, how many times? Like this is. So I'm gonna make an assumption, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
number one assume that he's not trained Leia yet. Maybe he has. I don't know. That could be factoring into this as well. But you know, sometimes it does take several iterations of training before you get really good at it, right?
Right.
And not only that, but you've got him trying to train this one force sensitive person that's in existence as far as we know that needs training. Um, and he's got there's no manual to any of this stuff, right? He's probably bestowing the knowledge in the way he was trained by Yoda, which you think about what Yoda's been through, and his age and stuff. So it's not like what I'm saying? Like it's not he is going to be rough. Right? He's going to be unpolished.
Yeah.
I would assume as he continues in the academy, he starts to grow and he starts to learn what's effective and what's not. It probably gets better, but I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't have
I
a
agree
problem
with
with
you.
it.
There was a lot of disgruntled people online. I know that's not surprising to anybody, but it's just the way that he went about doing things. It was a bit abrupt in some ways. And I'm right with you. I think it was, it's first or second student, first young student, I think. So even if you're comparing teaching Leia with Grogu, night and day difference, right? And I'm with you.
Hmm.
It's a skill you develop. It's not something some people are naturally good at communicating with others and for teaching, but to do it effectively, especially what they're trying to do here, being able to communicate that to someone. And Grogu has experience too. And, we can't take that for granted that Luke might find that a little bit off putting because he knows, presumably he knows he's had some amount of training at this point.
Yeah.
And again, he kind of says it later on where he's more like he's unlocking those doors than actually training him anything. He's just helping him remember.
Right. Yeah. Ben was born by Ash says Ben was born by now, so he has trained Leia by now. So yeah, good point. I forgot about that. So yeah, we don't know. We know how that ended.
Yeah.
I have more questions about that now with this episode, but that's a whole nother topic. We will not get into that.
I like that Luke doesn't have a robe. For Ahsoka calling him master, which we didn't really touch on, but he doesn't have a Jedi robe, which I thought was kind of good. He's not quite that master yet. He hasn't got the ego that goes with it quite yet.
Yeah. There's we get he talks about feeling the force through him, and then he's like, come on, let's I'm gonna show you something. He says, don't try, do. That was the whole take on do. There is no try. And then we get the backpack running sequence here, which is, again, when you talk about some of the things that were right out of Empire Strikes Back and the training little montage that we had there, a lot of similarities, especially this jump.
Right.
Like, this jump is so iconic for me when he does it on Dagobah and he tells Grogu to hold on and gets to do it again here. At some point, I want to put these like over each other and see if they just use that same kind of footage there.
And those thighs are not Mark Hamill's thighs.
That's true.
And actually, you can see the face is the stunt doubles.
Yeah.
But we'll forgive him for that.
Yep. But yeah, we're just kind of go cycling through the pictures here because eventually he says, I want to show you something. And this is where he climbs up onto the trees and gets over to the very top.
Yeah, Panda Luke shows up.
Right.
Climbing the bamboo.
Climbing the bamboo poles there. Okay, so the lesson here, right? The lesson above the trees. And I have a feeling, again, I tend to see things that really aren't there. But I have a feeling about why this scene is in here.
Okay.
He says the wide world exists in balance. Feel the force all around you. Through the force, you will find balance as well. And and we're kind of showing them now. He's just kind of, and that's it. I mean, that's the whole lesson. And they immediately jump out of it. And I thought, that's weird. Like, why? I mean, I get it. He's teaching them. This is just one slice of that lesson or all of the lessons. But why they decided to emphasize strictly on that? Now, of course, the balance in the force is something that's been we've heard many, many times before from several different masters all across Star Wars. It's just a kind of common theme in a lesson itself. But
right.
I just wonder if he's telling them that the only way that you're going to find balance is through the force, if that is signaling that at some point, when Grogu has to make a decision, he is going to choose for now. Okay. For now, he is going to choose to stay with Luke, because I wonder if he's got to learn more about the force to find what's going to be balanced for him. Like, so in other words, he continues to stay on and do some training, but at some point he realizes, okay, I've gotten everything that I feel like I need from this, and I'm not truly balanced because I'm conflicted because my pops is over there and my family's over there, and you know what I mean? And now he's going to decide to leave the order or leave Luke's training at least and go reunite with Mando sometime in season 3. That's how I interpreted this at that lesson of it's only through the force that you're going to find balance. And I don't think he's going to be balanced staying with Luke. Right.
Well, and I think if he felt the Mandalorian, if he felt Din, then I think this is an important lesson right now, because Grogu's likely feeling very conflicted in this very moment. And I think that's all the more time to express that when you're out of balance, you can't think clearly. You just can't, and again, he's just got to find that in order to be able to handle all of the emotions too. And Grogu's fairly young for his age. And so I think it's just one of those moments that's more timely than anything else of what he needed to show him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we get into the one leg standing sequence, which I thought, again, puppeteering was really good here. It looked like a puppet, but it was.
And I'm sorry, can Grogu have something other than a potato sack for clothing? And
I have in the notes. It says ditch the robes already. Like, put this guy in something a little bit more flexible.
Watching him run during the next sequence was amusing, but
it was amusing. It hides a lot of things too. So, um, I'm trying to think if there was anything else here. I don't know if I got a picture of Luke smiling, but there was a moment when Luke smiles at him that I thought was really good,
Right.
at least the way it looked. And then he's very encouraging. He's like, better, good, better, So we're starting to see progress, I guess, is kind of what they were trying to show there. This may have been one of my favorite moments, honestly.
Right.
We've never really seen Luke practice, not on screen. We've never really seen him practice. We've seen him wield a lightsaber for sure. And some of the movements that he was making were like straight out of Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Like as he's fighting Vader, like they took them and just said, okay, now do this one because we showed that one in that movie. So it was like a callback to some of that stuff. But that one in particular, that's kind of an iconic one that he has. I couldn't get them all. There was just too many of them. But just seeing Luke going through this kata or whatever it is of practicing with the lightsaber was awesome. And I love the fact that as he's going through all of this, you get to this moment here, and I'm showing Grogu now with his eyes are like wide open, his mouth is wide open, he's just gasping at what he's seeing, and you can see the lightsaber reflections in his eyes as well. But he's just mystified about this weapon, as all young boys are. Give me something that I can hurt somebody with, and
That's the first one he's seen in 25 years too. So,
yeah, true. Been a while.
Yeah, maybe longer than that. Yeah.
So, what'd you think about the sequence, though?
I really liked it. I mean, and again, the only thing I was a little disappointed with, they just used the same. He just did it one time, and they just did it from different angles, which I thought was a bit lazy. But because if you look at all the angles, it's the exact same motions he's doing. So that was disappointing. But I did like seeing Luke just practicing, and I like when the student is doing their thing, and you're like, okay, they got this, and then the teacher starts doing their thing as well. I think that's just another level of trust that's being built as well. And again, that astonishment and that amazement in the eyes of the youth about this is what's possible, I think it's always interesting to see. And the teachers and the masters don't always, show off or show what they're really capable of doing. So I think some of this is also, demonstrative, where he can actually show him, these are the things that we're going to get to.
Yeah, no, it's a glimpse of the future kind of thing.
Yeah.
We get into the training droids or training remote sequence now.
Yeah, and the jerk didn't even tell him what was really going to happen.
I know there've been a lot of people that were really upset that he just kind of sprung it on him. But hey, you know what? It's tough love. Sometimes training sucks, and you got to run a few miles. But there's I thought it was really cute that he rolled it at him almost like he wanted to play soccer. So it still shows that he's very young still, like as a kid, right?
Right.
The timing on this is just kind of weird, but nonetheless, I like that he turned on the remote with his finger and pointing, using the Force again, kind of showboating here. But yeah, I mean, this poor little dude had no idea what was coming, and you can see it now. There's a laser bolt that's coming out of there. That's when it hits him. I mean, it's comical in a lot of regards, and then he falls back, but he didn't aim at it. Like I actually went through and watched it. It just shot down near his feet. Yeah. Yes, it wasn't like shooting at him. So good for him on that, I guess.
Yeah, the concept art actually had it hitting him.
Oh, did it? I didn't catch that piece of it. How come we didn't use that for the title card?
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, so he falls down, and we had a really great moment here where Luke says, "Get back up, always get back up." Right. It was
like a Captain America moment.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I could do this all day.
Exactly, or Captain Marvel as well, right? In that whole sequence at the very end where she keeps getting back up after getting knocked down, or Rocky getting knocked down and getting back up. I mean, it's thematically it's been used many, many times, and it was just really cool to see that we got a Star Wars version of here with Luke. And this is where Ahsoka shows up eventually. I'm sorry, I forgot the whole sequence here. He's starting to do flips. Like he's moving, his mannerisms and the way he's moving about is very similar to Yoda, which I don't know, maybe it's just in their DNA that's how they jump. They just flip everywhere constantly. But I thought it was cute, and you can kind of see Luke's face here. He's almost kind of bewildered, like, whoa, he does have it in him. But the point of this was really to show progression, right? That Luke is not necessarily training him, like as he says a little bit later, he's just helping him remember because he has been through some level of training as part of the temple there back in Coruscant. But yeah, we get to see this progression here. This guy moves so fast. I couldn't get really good shots of him. Everything's like super blurry. And then he finally has enough. And look at his face. He's got like a stern look, like I've had enough of this dang remote.
I love it though. After he destroys it, he's like, "Yippee!" Kinda,
Yeah, and then he
he's
points at it. He's like,
yeah.
man, like I broke it. I didn't mean to break it, but I did. All right, here's where Ahsoka comes in.
Yeah.
She kind of very casually walks in, almost like observing Luke, if
It
you
was very
will.
much like when Leia comes behind him at the very end of Jedi, and he kind of looks behind
Oh
him.
yeah, yeah,
Remember that scene? Yeah.
hmm yeah. He just kind of slowly turns, looks at her, and continues on. Or Grogu continues on. He's watching him. Um, there's she says sometimes they get there's a line here about where she says sometimes the student teaches the master.
Right.
And I think, my God, how many times did that happen in the Clone Wars where she was managing up, if you will,
Right.
with Anakin Skywalker there? So definitely call back to that. She mentions that they do have a strong bond, and
Well, yeah, she's reminding him that they have a strong bond.
yeah,
So clearly, her maybe disapproval is a bit strong, because you have to remember, Ahsoka is considerably older than Luke.
mhm.
So
there's she says Luke says, and this I thought was a very poignant line, which I don't know. I think I got it right here.
yeah.
But he says, sometimes I wonder if his heart is in it. And, speaking about Grogu and some of the concern there. And I think this is what leads to him kind of putting him to the test at the very end, right?
Right.
Literally making him make a decision, because he's definitely feels like there is some conflict here. Like he's here. And we're going to get into this too. The whole idea between choice, free will versus destiny and choice and all that. We'll touch on it at the very end. But for this episode, that will be our Patreon content that we'll come back and record this weekend. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But it does feel like he's getting a sense from Grogu that his heart's really not into it. Likely because half of his heart is still with the Mandalorian, right? Or some part of it, a big part of it is.
Right.
And I think, again, this is what's going to lead to him making that decision, or at least put him to the test to make a decision on his own. And she looks at him and says, "So much like your father," right? That was another moment. And this is where when she said that, I thought, well, dang it. Like and I won't go into that because I know I've already expressed how I was kind of a little disappointed that we
Right.
didn't have that initial conversation, but I want them, like, I need them to have a conversation about Anakin,
Right.
right? I just, it's there. We can do it now. It's definitely proven. Just give it to us. And if it's a flashback, fine. If it's I don't really want a novel. I want to see it and hear it.
Right. And it would be
selfishly.
such a contrast to Luke's first conversation with Obi-Wan about Anakin, where it was basically
Oh yeah, exactly.
misleading of information.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's truth in a lot of it, but yeah, it was just very, you can tell there's more positivity and some of that history that she has that she's probably shared with him, that because he had a little smirk. I thought that was really nice. I thought it was a nice touch. And so what did you take from that exactly though? When she said that, like what aspect of Anakin do you think that she's seeing? Is this that he has this emotional, he's just more emotional and looking for that commitment side of things? Or what, is there something in particular you think she was thinking of?
So, and I mean, we've had less than 24 hours to prepare for the show, and I
Yeah.
wanted to go back and watch some of the Clone War episodes. I vaguely thought that that Anakin had said something similar to her, or somebody in one of the episodes, and said, "I didn't feel like your heart was in it." I could be completely wrong, but that was the first thing I thought. Is like, oh my God, he just said a line that was very similar to what Anakin said in the Clone Wars. I
Mhm.
don't remember if that's true or not, and I'm just saying that because I still need to go back and do the research. But
Yeah.
the other part of it would be, yeah, that he's certainly looking at Grogu and he's able to tap in, and he's more concerned about the emotional part of it and the feelings part of it, right? That bit of it is definitely his father, because
Right.
he did lead with the heart, right? He did everything with his heart first, and that's what got him in trouble.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
But but I don't think Luke's wrong here though either.
no,
You've got to have commitment to it. I mean, you've got to focus, and if you're distracted, you're not going to be able to do it.
yeah,
It's going to be
and
very
I think
difficult.
yeah, we'll save that.
Yeah.
Save it for the very end when we get to the very controversial thing that he did here.
Right. But yeah, you can tell Luke is very uncertain about what to do with this, and I think a bit worried about what this will do. And I was concerned he was going to hide it from Grogu, actually. But so I was actually pretty proud of Luke that he went about it
Right.
at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did save it, right? He didn't show it to him then. He saved it and did it in balance, in true form, right? He had both of them out there and decided, okay, I'm going to put them both out here because
Yeah.
they're both relics and things that are obviously of interest to Grogu now. he says, he says, what should I do about him? And I think what he's saying is like, I don't know if I should continue training him or not. There's definitely something conflicting there, right? And she tells him to trust his instincts, which is what he does, right or wrong. That's what he does. So here was this Grogu was exhausted again, so we're still seeing that where he uses the Force. He's kind of laid out on that rock, and you can say he's kind of
Is that what
panting.
he's
Now, granted,
doing? I couldn't figure out what he was doing. I thought he was listening to it.
no, yeah,
Maybe he's looking for more frogs.
maybe he is. He's listening for the frogs underneath there. But yeah, this is how I took it because he's sitting there and he's kind of panting, breathing. Granted, he was just doing flips and all that,
Right.
but he was standing there. We know using the Force would exhaust him, so maybe he is just still kind of getting his legs underneath him, if you will, with some of it. This not the best, deep fake here. I just happened to capture it in this particular frame that doesn't look very flattering, but this line of, will I see you again? I mean, that's, my goodness. Could you make anything more obvious as a callback to episode 1 where Anakin's telling, what's her name?
Padme. Yeah.
Padme.
There you go.
Of whether or not he would see her again. So it was cool. I like the fact that it wasn't exactly line for line, but I think he says, "Will I ever see you again?"
Well, I think it also speaks to just the loneliness he might have and that feeling of he's on his own. He's got to figure this all out. She's telling me to trust my instincts too. And I don't know. I'm surprised you didn't ship him, actually. I guess, maybe
I'm saving that.
Luke hasn't seen a lady like he hasn't seen anybody since Cammy. It's been a few years, except for his sister.
And Cammy's still available. So, it's not Padme. It's Shmi. It's Shmi Skywalker. Will I ever see you again? What does your heart tell you?
Oh, right.
Not Padme. Jeez. Come on, get it right, Jonesy. No, I had it wrong. I had it completely wrong.
But yeah, it was, I kind of like it though. It was a bit of desperation in his voice.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a part. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely lonely. There is, when he said, the way he says that too, like, I wonder how much, what is their relationship, right? Is she just this figure that kind of pops in and, gives him a few tips and pointers and then pops back out and disappears. And he's just kind of left thinking, my gosh, I do have to figure this out on my own. We don't know where Ahsoka's head is at. We don't know what her approach is to having Anakin. I mean, it's got to be awkward too, right? I would think in some way. There's probably feelings she needs to resolve or come to terms with there, and having the son of Anakin Skywalker and everything that they've been through together, good and bad, here live in the present here. I don't know. It's definitely a different relationship. It's not the, hey, Ahsoka meets Luke and they're off running around doing stuff together and they're the best of buds and getting caught up. It doesn't feel like that at all. It does feel like it's more a professional business relationship, if you will. I don't know. Am I reading that wrong? I don't know.
Well, I think that's what makes it more interesting that she called him Master Luke. And I don't know if that was for Din's, benefit of the respect and making sure that it was clear that, Grogu has a teacher, or if it was something that she would actually refer to him as, because she's got so much more experience than him. And I know she doesn't necessarily associate with being a Jedi anymore, potentially. Because again, what you were just saying, we don't really quite understand what her perspective on the Jedi or rebuilding the Jedi Order, or really how she feels about Luke, or what were the circumstances of their meeting. How does Anakin play into all of that? I mean, even Padme, because her and Padme became good friends too, right? So it's Padme's son. So I think a lot of those things, a lot of emotion within all of that, and it's probably a bit difficult to be around. But she's also got very different objectives, and they don't align with the Order. But I think Luke is just looking for that guidance that he doesn't have Obi-Wan or Yoda to give him anymore. And Ahsoka's got a very different perspective too. And I think her perspective would actually probably be more beneficial in a lot of ways than either Obi-Wan or even Qui-Gon at this point, or Yoda.
Yeah. And we've speculated that, Luke is, in the sequel trilogy or post Return of the Jedi, that Luke would be cut from the same cloth as an Ahsoka, right, more in tune with like attachments and better understanding of, okay, it's, you can't be dogmatic one way or the other, echoing some of the stuff that we've seen in the High Republic. But It doesn't. In right now, at least right now, I don't. That's not the case. I really feel like Luke is still taking a very old school approach, and there's still
Yeah.
something that's going to happen and change him and change the way he thinks, even with everything that he's been through with his father. Right. I still think there's still something that's going to happen, and we'll talk about that maybe in another show. But I do wonder if if at some point he approached her and said, "Look, I need your help. We got to do this," and she gave him the line, maybe not directly, but "I'm no Jedi. Like you're barking up the wrong tree, dude. Like I've already gone this path. I've
Right.
walked away from them. I'm never coming back." And so then you got to feel like Luke Skywalker. He's got to feel very very alone at that point,
Yeah.
because here's somebody that's got lightsaber. Here's somebody that was my father's Padawan, and she can't help me because she's not a Jedi. And so what does that mean? Like, am I doing the right thing here? What does she know that I don't know? Why is she not a Jedi? I don't know if any of these conversations have happened and that's what I'm saying. I need to have some of that for my own.
Well, and there's an
personal selfish
argument
reasons.
that Ahsoka's probably more Jedi like historically than a lot of the Jedi we've seen on screen. Yeah, as
Yeah.
well, because it's just the way that she is very disconnected, I think, emotionally from a lot of things. Even what we see in Rebels and so on. So I think it's in a lot of ways she's probably more the personification about what the Jedi thought they were supposed to be, or perhaps were at one point.
Yeah. And then she leaves him with the parting words of perhaps like, no promises, bud.
Right.
I may see you, I may not. But may the force be with you either way.
If I want you to do my laundry, maybe I'll show back up. Yeah.
Yeah. He's an intern right now is kind of
That's
how
right.
I look at it. Yeah, and then we get him kind of staring down here at the gift, and we break away. And to be honest, I didn't think we would come back. I thought I was like, cool.
Yeah, I thought that was it too.
I was
Yeah.
happy. We're done. We're not coming back there. I felt very satisfied seeing all that. So we flip back over to Mando approaching Tatooine. More crotch cam there in space. He comes into Jabba's palace. I'm just flipping through this stuff because there's really not.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how difficult it is to get out of the N1 starfighter?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, he
watching
really
it-
struggles with it.
Every time he comes out of it, and
It's
so
very
like
awkward. I
it
wish they
is.
wouldn't show it. I wish they would just cut, so
You're
it was,
right.
yeah.
He's already out.
Yeah.
So in reality, it's probably because it's hard to see in that stinking helmet, right? We've already heard that many times from every actor
Yeah.
that's ever put that thing on.
Well, he's got all
Or-
that stuff on him too, and he's trying to find that one foothold
Right,
back there. Yeah.
Yep. And then I thought, well, okay, in the universe of Star Wars, and maybe it's just he's not familiar with the N1, and you got to becomes muscle memory after a while.
But it's like Chrysanthemum. Don't show him running. Just cut.
Right, yeah,
I mean,
cut.
just edit just a little bit. Come on,
Yep.
guys.
half a second.
Yeah.
But there's the little bubble. It's beckoning
Just
for
taunting
somebody
at
to
you.
yeah, fill me in with the little Grogu guy. He walks up to, I think it was Rocksteady. Rocksteady's the one that's got the helmet. And then we get to this whole little debriefing thing. There was a moment here, I think, during, when Tamura Morrison and, what's her name?
Fennec.
Yeah, well, not Fennec, but yeah. They were doing the tour, right? They were going around doing the press tour, and he made a comment about there was a scene where he was talking too much, and he had made a comment to the director at the time. He's like, I feel like I'm talking way too much. And I think this is the scene they were talking about. Like the lines originally were going to be Boba Fett kind of debriefing everybody on where things were. But it was a little bit out of character. And so they pass it on to Fennec Shan.
Yeah.
But either way,
We got I guess is who you're talking about.
Ming Na Wen. Thank you. Yeah, I know it's late, man. It's like 10:30 over here. This was a really good moment. Like the Major Domo is just so perfect here about
just scheduled vacation.
Right.
It's so clearly from the Midwest too, which bothers me.
Oh, I think it's great. But yeah, I'm with you. There's it's very political. Like when you hear about like in the US at least, with presidents that are, they're being asked questions about where they were and why they weren't here when some event was going on. And that's the response they get from the press secretary as well. It was a scheduled vacation. It was already on the books, and the president didn't feel like he couldn't get away from it or whatever. So I did love that. And then just that little snarl at the very end too, where Bebop comes and snarls at him.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, he yips at him.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yep, pig breath. So, but I guess the key takeaway from this scene, apart from Mando showing up and giving us the nod, very similar to Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi nodding at Bosch, is the meeting that he had right, with the other leaders, and they all agreed. And we knew. I think we speculated at least one of them was going to be, you know, a rat in all this, or
Right.
go against what Boba had asked them to do. But it sounds like all three of them have just kind of rolled over, and they're letting the Pikes through and letting them come in onto his territory. Not expected. Expected.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was curious that she turned it around though a little bit too, that they were just allowing this to happen, and that really kind of disconnected from the actual agreement that they all made. He wanted them to stand aside, but yeah. Again, someone still could probably create a problem for them though, I think, and it's probably likely to happen at some point still. But it seems like they got their handful at this point anyway, so I don't know that it's necessary for to muddy the waters further with the trained oceans or someone like that stepping up and doing something dumb.
Yeah. Here's Mando posing as the model masculinity form that he is. And then he gives a little nod there to Boba. Boba Fett kind of gives him a nod back, but it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Chrysanthemum's looking at him too. I think you're going to need to ship Mando and Chrysanthemum now.
Yeah, I'm going to ship those guys. There's and then Fennec mentions that Mando and Black K are the muscle now. So I read that and I thought, well, dang it, are we not going to get anybody else?
They're the enforcers.
I know.
Yeah.
What about IG-88? And what about no, I'm kidding.
Bosk and all that.
Well, no, Bosk could be. I imagine he'd be on the other side, but either way, it looks like that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Let's see. We get the mods. I got a theory about her a little bit later.
About Drash?
Yeah. Yeah. When we get to Cad Bane, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So yeah, they all turn to look at Mando after he says that, hey, she says, basically, we need foot soldiers. We got all the pieces in place with the exception of foot soldiers, which is a very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle term.
Yeah.
And at this point, we just need some more folks. And he's like, dude, I can help with that. I know where to go. Okay. He takes off and we get to this little shot here of these scavenging Jawas taking the skull of the crate dragon from
Love it.
Mandalorian season 2. It was good stuff. And it's funny too, because I swear to you, I love this shot, by the way.
Yeah.
That whole, kind of like the camera affixed to the wing, if you will, and it's kind of circling around. But there is one of the Jawas. It's not in the subtitles, but if you just turn the audio up and listen, one of them says Suka. So I don't know how they recognize him, and maybe maybe it wasn't really meant to be like a in your face kind of Easter egg, but
right.
One of them definitely goes Sukas, which is the egg, right?
Right.
Yeah, from the Mudhorn. So they somehow one of them recognized him, which I thought was really cool. They're waving at him, and then he lands here in Mos Pelgo.
Pelgo, yeah.
Right. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Neil's got a good question. How the heck did those guys get the skull on top of there? I don't know.
They're crafty.
Maybe they dragged it onto a hill, and then the hill was at a steep incline, right? And so then they brought the sand crawler up to it, and then it was just kind of they just kind of pulled it over with ropes. And
maybe the sand crawler has cranes that come out of it in order to be able to pick it up and move it.
Force sensitive Jawas. They use the force to lift it into the air.
They use their Suka powers once they've had the end.
Suka powers. Albert the engineer. Hardly, but I'm kind of wacky. Here's the
the deputy.
Yeah, this new guy. My goodness, he causes all kinds of problems.
Yeah, you're parking in the handicap spot. Get out.
Yeah, he looks like a poor man's Christian Bale too. I don't know if you can see that in his face here. This was so like Texas thing to do, right? You could park somewhere and somebody's like, I don't know, you can't park here. You got to park out that way, or
right.
Whatever. But very cool stuff. And then this is where, again, we get Cobb Vanth come in, and he does a really good job of, he makes that joke about, new guy. And it's like, man, is that an N1 starfighter? Like, it's just, I don't know. It was very natural. And this is Filoni that did the dialogue. So I was very
two guys fawning over a car.
Yeah. Doesn't really happen often, but yeah.
Yeah. But Mando's all concerned about him. Haven't seen you since since the last time. How you doing? Or how you doing without the armor, basically. He's like, I'm a lot more careful.
He said more jumpy, which I thought was great. Because, I would be a little bit more jumpy, too, if I didn't have Mandalorian armor or Beskar to protect me from somebody getting shot. So, and we get the question of where's the little guy, and he's like, oh, he went back with his family. He's like, oh, it's too bad. Now, Pelimato did the same thing. She kind of made the same comment, although she then followed up that comment with, oh, we could have opened a petting zoo, which I think she was really kind of joking about.
I don't
but
think he was joking at all.
Maybe I think she was. But they are reminders to Mando about, man, did I really make the right decision here?
Well, and the way that he responds, it sounds like we both lost something that we were fond of.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm sure that didn't sit well with him, but he's gonna get in there. Look, what do you see in the shot? Some would say, the Marshal and the Mandalorian. I see an empty cockpit that needs a baby Grogu in it. I mean, it's like,
oh my gosh,
front and center. Look at it. I didn't Photoshop this. This thing is like right there. Put him in there already. They go back inside.
It's like, can I buy you a drink so we could talk about your hair product, please?
Yeah, I really want to know what your
hair care regimen looks like.
The only awkward part about this is he says, "Can I buy you a drink?" He doesn't really respond to him. He just like turns away and walks off. And I think if I were Mando, I'd be like, "Is that a yes? No? I guess we're going into the bar, so maybe it's a yes." Baby in the bubble. I like that. We need to call that the baby in the bubble. Okay, so they head in here, and immediately I was like, "Whoa!" They took not only did the Jawas scavenge some of the crate dragon, but looks like they use this for some interior decorations. Yeah,
I love that. Looks great.
Why put up a rack of horns when you can just put a whole rib cage up? Right. If you want to make a statement, whole rack of ribs right there underneath it. But yeah, it looks like now how they got this in there, I don't know, Neil. You're gonna have to figure that one out on your own. It's
well, I can get through the door and they just reconstruct it inside.
Oh, you think they dismantled it and put it together?
Yeah, why not? That's how they do dinosaur bones at the museums.
Okay. You mean they don't take them in whole? That's weird.
No, they have to do it at some point. They put them all together and then they have to.
Oh, I know. I was joking. I know there's people watching the show for the first time and they're probably thinking, this is the worst show ever. Why did I sign up for this? But this is what we do. So either love it or hate it. That's what we do. Okay. They're having this whole kind of conversation. And I do like the fact that Mando comes in, and I know he's having a hard time getting around to just saying, look, I need you to help me. And eventually where that's the conversation goes. But I do love the fact that Cobb Vanth is like, why? You know what I mean? It wasn't just like this, oh man, you need me? I'll go out there and help you. No problem. No sweat. He pushes back and he asks some very legitimate questions like, what's in this for us? Like, I have no skin in this game whatsoever.
The town's done fighting. They've taken care of what was important to them, what was threatening them. And now people want to just go back and live their lives. And he wants to allow them to do that and just protect them. And, he takes that on with his loser deputy. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's not going to put these folks through it again.
Yeah.
But I do like it, though. Like, Dan had to put his hat in hand. Like, look, there's no easy way to ask for a favor. Yeah, he's absolutely right. He's not any good at this. And it was pretty clear. But Cobb Vanth also knows. I mean, he's already had the run-in with the Spice Runners. And so when he gets this from Mando, he's got to be putting these pieces together that there's something going on and we can't stick our head in the sand, figuratively and literally, any longer, because it will start to spread, pretty quickly. And of course, then he's given a really stark reminder in a few minutes, but
yeah, for sure. There was a little bit too of Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan when they're talking to, both the Gungans and the folk on Naboo about, the symbiotic relationship they have, and that, whatever happens to one's going to happen to another. There were certainly echoes of that as Mando was kind of trying to explain to him that they're all on the same planet and it's just a matter of time before they come from Mos Pelgo, when we get corrected that it's no longer Pelgo. It's now.
But of course, that's what Boba said, that the syndicates weren't going to take that bait, that, the Pikes would take over everything.
Mm.
So it was a little at odds with that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
This is where we get it.
Freetown.
Mos Pelgo. Freetown.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So for anybody that doesn't know, in the Aftermath novels, it was called Freetown. And when in season 2, when we visited Mos Pelgo, I wouldn't say I was upset, but I was disappointed that it wasn't called Freetown. But see, just had to wait.
We have rectified that situation.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, they're like a new town. They're rebranding themselves.
Rebranding, yep. City's going through a lot of renovation right now.
Right.
By the way, speaking of renovation, Josh says they built the bar around it, meaning the ribs, which I love the idea that they tore down the entire bar, put the ribs in, and rebuilt it right around it. So I am down with
Maybe there are
that.
big garage doors down at the very end of it. You just don't see it.
Yeah, the bay doors.
Yeah.
Okay. So Cobb Vanth says, "Look, I'll see what I can do," kind of thing. Here are these guys looking very skeptical about whether or not this is the right deal. I forget the Weequay's name. Did they ever give a name?
I don't think so because he just calls him Weequay at the
Yeah.
bar. When we
And he
introduced
had one
him.
in the novels, but I don't remember what that name was now. Shame on me. This is where was there was something he said here on this shot that I really enjoyed about, that's that big smile. See, that's what I like about you.
Yeah, that big smile lets you get away with anything.
Yeah, which I thought was really good because you can't see a smile. And this was in response to him saying, "Look, I didn't think you were one to back down from bullies." So he's almost challenging him, like,
Right.
"You're the big, bad, what around here, and put your money where your mouth is."
Right. Poking him
Run
with the
him
stick
out.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it was enough. It was enough that was what kind of pushed at least Vanth to say, "Okay,
Well,
I'll at least bring it to the team."
I don't know about that because then he says, "Look, there's no easy way to ask for a favor," and I think that's where he softened up.
Hmm.
And the other stuff he probably took more of that into account. But I think it was when he said, "Look, I really need your help," basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Cobb Vanth understands how difficult that would be for this particular person and probably Mandalorians in general.
Yeah. So they head back outside. Bando takes off, and this is where he tells them, "Hey, let's get anybody that can, if you're within the sound of my voice and you're able to carry a rifle and fight, men, women, children, whatever, round them up. We're going to have a meeting." And he does say that whatever he's going to tell them is probably going to be enough to convince the townsfolk. So I would imagine it's just a lot of what Mando said, but
it's already on our doorstep. This is what I encountered, yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah, I would imagine he's going to recall that incident and the encounter and what that's going to look like long term if they don't do nothing. They can't just sit here and idly expect it to go away.
Right.
It's just going to continue to get worse. And again, here we go. So this is at this point, I think a lot of folks would just completely forgot about the title of the episode.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we were so inundated with so many other emotions and things, characters and other stuff going on that, we kind of lost sight of that. I did too.
So there was a shift in the wind.
It was. I love that. Like the bantha makes a noise first, and that's where you see Cobb Vanth. He looks over at the bantha, and then Filoni cuts over to the shot of the wind chimes, right? Something's going on. There's something in the air now. And then, he looks over and he's got a very, very concerned look on his face as he's looking out that way. And then we get this, which, I mean, everybody that has seen and knows who Cobb Vanth is, when you saw this, you knew exactly what it was, right? There's only one character in all of Star Wars that even has this kind of a silhouette, which I thought was really great. But anyways, just being able to see him come on. I thought, I can't believe we're doing this. I'm sorry, Cobb. Yeah,
Cad Bane. Yeah.
Cad Bane, not Cobb Vanth. Cad Bane. Didn't think we were going to see him ever. I think we talked about it and we've speculated that he would and we wanted him and all that, but it just felt like it wasn't going to happen. And
this was a great way to introduce him, though. I really liked how this worked. Is they hired him to go and put him down, knowing that things were starting to escalate. So what do? You just go hire the best one. It makes sense that the Pikes, especially after what he did with the Spice Runners.
Yeah.
That just go and hire the best and let's go nip this in the bud right now. Someone is imposing, but also has the chops to back it up.
There's I've mentioned Sergio Leone. We've talked about it many times on this show and when we were covering The Mandalorian, but there is a movie called Once Upon a Time in the West. And if you go back and watch that movie, there's a sequence of shots that are almost like right out of that. And
so many movies have spoofed it. Yeah.
But yeah,
any Western, even modern day Westerns are doing this or have done this.
Yeah. So it was all good stuff. I mean, I don't know what to say other than that it was just really creepy in some ways. It was suspenseful in a lot of ways. There was a lot of anticipation. I thought he did a really good job of like heightening the anticipation and the suspense because of there's no music playing, right? All
Right.
you can hear is the wind. You can see the boots and just
And every
shots.
time he cuts over, he's just a little bit closer, a
Yeah,
little bit
right.
closer.
Well, you can see it right there. Like he starts off here, and then they
Yeah.
cut over to him, and he's there, and then he's like here, and now he's here, and he just keeps getting closer until he's finally right up on him. And good job on keeping his hat down because that added to it as well.
Right.
Um, all right. I know you said you had a problem with the teeth, right? Was
It
that
was
you?
very. Yeah, I think it was more the mouth movements. It seemed like he was
Mm.
showing a lot of teeth, and maybe that was just the only way they could make it work.
Yeah, I mean, there were some subtle differences. Like the brim of his hat's not wide enough. If you
Yeah.
go look at it, it's not wide. And I just chalked it up to, okay, it's kind of like the Ahsoka Montrals. It's just
Yeah.
not, maybe it didn't work right.
The
As,
live action translation, his skin also seemed a little paler than I
Yes.
want to remember it.
it wasn't as that deep blue that he
Yeah.
has. Almost a chiss blue, if you will.
But
Oh,
maybe
it's
that was
just have
inten-
different flavors.
Maybe that was intentional because of the injuries. I don't know.
True.
Maybe they
Um,
get lighter as they get older.
Yeah. His face wasn't as narrow either. Like the Cad Bane, my goodness. The Cad Bane from Clone Wars and from Bad Batch had a longer nose and mouth, that whole
Yeah.
piece of it there in the front.
Yeah,
And this
and
was
that's
smaller.
and that's the part. Yeah, I think in order for make the mechanics of the actual actor speaking, I think they probably had to make some concessions there to make it work. But I think overall it still worked really well.
Yep.
It was just if you're used to watching him in the other material, it does feel a little bit different.
And it was Corey Burton, right? Is that who
Corey
does the
Button
voice?
did the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Which, I mean, again, I love the fact that it was him.
Oh, it
when
was
he
perfect,
spoke,
yeah.
it was like, that's him. I
Yep.
mean, make no mistake about it. That's got to be him.
Which probably just kind of twisted the knife a little more for you too with Ahsoka, huh?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah. Because they did it with him. Although he's got more makeup, and so it's easier to, I mean, it's,
True.
he's got a costume on, so it's a little bit easier to pull off. And then this jerk face comes out, ruining everything. I love the look here that he gives him, the stern look of like, I told you to stay in the ship, or I told you to stay in the
Right.
in the bar. Let's see. I want to talk about Cad Bane's dialogue here, because he says, Cobb Vanth, whatever Fett is paying you will match, right?
Right.
And then his next line is, Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer who worked with the Empire.
Yeah. That was an interesting line.
Yep. And then he says, you should have never given up your armor. Okay. So
Sure. Yeah, he sure knows a lot about Cobb Vanth.
well, so that's where, yeah, he does know a lot. And I started thinking like, okay, so how did he know one that, well, there's, okay. Let me ask you a question. Do you think he knew that Mando was heading out there, or was it just pure coincidence that he shows up as Mando was leaving for the sake of like storytelling?
Well, I think he showed up because the Pikes reported back, right? The one that went back.
Mhm.
So that he showed up isn't necessarily tied to Mando specifically. I think him showing up right as he leaves, I think is just storytelling and
Storytelling.
yeah. And again, Mando's leaving thinking that he's got an ally. They're going to hear back from him in a couple of days, not that he's going to have a showdown in the streets.
Yeah. Right. I just wonder how much of this information he's getting fed, if there would be a mole in that group back in Boba's camp, right? Is there somebody there that's tipping them off and telling them where they're going to go? Because I mean, he's collected
But how would Cobb Vanth? I mean, I guess Boba knows that Cobb Vanth had it. Again, we still don't know why he didn't just go get it, but
yeah.
I don't know how any of that would have come up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm struggling to get there. Yeah, I don't know how he would have got all this information because he knows quite a bit, which doesn't make a whole bit of sense given that they're out in the middle of nowhere in Tatooine.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around how he would know this much as well, other than being well connected.
Yeah, and he's good at his job.
He's good at his job, right? We got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I had went down the path of a mole, and I was thinking it would be Thatcher's character. Was it Drash?
Yeah.
This
is where you got with that. Okay.
Yeah, or it could be any of the mods. It's just they've showed her and they showcased her, I guess, if you will, in the previews and stuff, and she really hasn't been on screen very much. But here we go. Never mind. Josh just figured out the Rancor is wearing a wire. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, Boba really talks to him quite a bit.
Yep. Okay. Either way, it's he shows up and that line of when he said he shouldn't have gotten rid of your armor or whatever, that was like, holy crap, this is going to go down. Like someone's and there was no part of me that thought Cobb Vanth was going to come out and walk away from this, right?
No,
I mean,
no
we
one's
just
faster.
know.
No one's faster than Cad Bane.
Yep. Which I was thinking, my God, I was like dreading the fact that he was going to die here, which he did, and thankfully, we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Right.
I love when he finally lifted his head up and you got to see his blood red Duro eyes, which is really great stuff. Yeah, and then here we go into the whole gunfight thing, and I didn't get a good picture of his little fingers there, his little Muppet fingers, but yeah, they don't bend either.
So again, he's said that the Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer that worked for the Empire. Are we kind of in agreement here that the reason why he said that is he's just trying to persuade him, just to make a different decision? Like, hey, you're teaming up with these other guys who are just as bad as the ones that you're fighting against,
right?
With the Pikes.
No, 100%. And even if you go back to the scene when they're in the bar, and he tells them like, so what do you want? Something about this Boba Fett guy. Like, I don't know who this guy is. He could be anybody from, I don't know him from anyone else, right?
Right.
And so this just reinforces that. Like, did I align with the wrong people here? I mean, Mando's my bud, but I know nothing about this guy. And now he's telling me that he's a cold-blooded killer and he used to work for the Empire, the same Empire that was, oh no, that was a different trade federation, a trade group. But either way, it was the Empire. Everybody knows who they are, right? So,
right. But again, he stays true to character. Tatooine's closed for business. We don't want spice around here. Same as what he was doing to keep that trouble elsewhere. And as long as you guys keep out of my sight, then I don't care what you do. But as long as you're not here, and again, he fed that same message. He's not going to back down again from a bully, right?
Right.
And I think that was again reiterating that point.
Those
look like salt and pepper shakers on his belt.
They are. Yeah, that's kind of a known fact about Cobb Vanth. I'm surprised you don't remember it.
He brings his own seasons and spices everywhere he goes.
It was in Empire's End. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know if it was like in the cross sections book or
right.
the art of the Mandalorian or something.
Yeah. Okay. So enough of the silliness, but yeah, they get to the duel. This dude interferes, the deputy. Good shots here all around. He really, again, does a great job, Dave Filoni, of building all this up. And here's the shot. So I know there was a lot, and I think a lot of the folks that I saw that were talking about whether or not Cobb Vanth was dead after the thing premiered at 2 a.m. Central, have now come back and said, okay, no, he wasn't dead. We just, didn't look at it closely. Yeah, we overreacted, knee jerk kind of thing. But
maybe I just saw it better, but I knew right away, A, they're not going to kill Cobb Vanth. But
exactly.
B, it was clearly, to me, it clearly seemed like a shoulder shot, but I just probably got lucky with the way I watched it.
Yeah, but, it didn't make sense. It wouldn't make narratively, it would make no sense to kill Cobb Vanth off. Right. And I'll just leave it at that because I could get on a soapbox for that one. But sorry, what were you going to ask?
No, I was going to also say that he just made the deputy look like a chump. I mean, he got that shot off, and the other guy still hadn't even got the gun out of his holster before he's already lighting him up.
Yeah, this is Vanth calling his shots too. He took his right shoulder out, which is his shooting hand. So there's no way he's picking that pistol up. And then he's got another guy to contend with, and he just unloads on this guy. I mean, he took, I don't know, 5-6 shots at least.
Yep.
Before the sucker was even able to get his blaster out in time.
I don't think he ever did.
No, I think he was still struggling. I can't remember if he was or not, but yeah, it wasn't even a fair fight.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody helps. The whole town's there, but no one decides.
I mean, what are they going to do?
Shoot him.
They don't probably have weapons. Well, not many weapons, and they all went inside. So all the people live, I think, on the outskirts.
I think I just expect too much, but yeah.
You might, yeah. But he puts everyone on notice, right?
Yeah, he does.
As long as the spice keeps running, everyone's fine.
No one's gunning. That's what he says.
Right.
As long as the spice is running, no one's gunning. He says, no, everyone will be left alone. He turns off, walks away into the sunset. And these guys come out, and you can hear them. They're like, oh, get a med pack and get a stim, a couple other things. So he's definitely going to be around. But I think this was definitely enough for the Weequay to be like, okay, this is it. We've got to. Yeah, this is serious.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the deputy's just over there by himself, dying or dead.
Well, I think they saw it and they're like, okay, he took 6 shots. And we don't really like him. He's new.
Right.
Let's go check on Cobb Vanth.
Should have put him in a red shirt, but Cobb Vanth took one for the team.
Yep. So they'll be back. I definitely feel like he's got the support now of Freetown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Two
all right.
Pikes walk into a bar.
Yes, I have it in the show notes.
Oh,
so
do
two
you?
Pike. Yeah, look in there.
Oh my god.
Two Pikes. So these two Pikes walk into a bar, and no, I'm kidding. It's a joke.
Right,
It's
with
a joke.
Camtono.
The Camtono. One Pike turns to the other Pike and says, so they come in and sit down. I was not expecting this. It's a very short scene.
Yeah.
All right, it's a very short scene. We got, it seems very innocuous in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they order a drink. Yeah, Garza's kind of watching him though. So something's up. Yeah.
If you watch Garza in this whole scene, she's like, her spidey senses are definitely tingling because why would two Pikes walk into a bar and just sit down and then order drinks and then leave? I mean, it turns out to be an act of terrorism. And just for the record, Max Rebo is not here tonight. He was off. So
that was deliberate. Yeah.
We don't need to worry about him having to survive yet another explosion.
Although the Bith.
I don't know. Yeah, he's gone.
He's got no knuckles in his fingers anyway. So
and the Neopert droid that they've got.
Yeah, they needed an upgrade anyway. I like that the hi-hat's on his head.
Is it?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that. Yeah, that's cool. I missed that one.
They come over. Yeah, ask for helmets. They can clean their helmets.
Which I was like, okay, I don't. They're not going to answer.
It's almost like a test, right? And I think that was the idea. Garza Flip sent them over there to see if they were looking to collect a bribe or what.
Mm-hmm.
But when they didn't want anything, she's like, okay, this is not right.
Yep. There's a good shot here too. This is when the droid comes. He's like, "You're Camtono," and we get
and you can see her if you flip back a screen. You can see her right there on the right side.
Yeah,
staring at them. So she's not anywhere near. Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
I think she's dead, Jim.
I think so too. Very sad.
There's I took this shot here of her eyes because you can see like she has this look of oh no on her face
right at the last second. Yeah,
but here, look at this one. Like her mouth starts to open like oh no, and it's literally a half a second after this that explosion goes off. So she's definitely aware that something that she knows like death is gonna happen. And then we get the big explosion, and so I think this I guess. It's a very quick scene. This is where I was talking about, like, it felt, I wouldn't say it was off, but earlier on when I was talking about, you could have laid this out a little bit differently, right? And I said that maybe it's a negative, maybe it's not. But I guess what was the purpose of this scene? I know, I think I know the answer. I'm just saying, like, it's, this is an act of terrorism, right? We see this in real world. They go into a restaurant and they blow themselves up or set a bomb off. And the whole point is just to really instill fear. Right. Unless there was something specific about this cantina that they needed to destroy, which I don't think is the case. This is really just sending a message and trying to get people scared and understand that, there is a storm coming. There is a war that's coming. And this is a very high profile place. So why not go bomb it? But do you think there was anything else in this?
No, and I think that's primarily it, is that this was the heart of Boba Fett's empire, if you will, or of his territories. And, presumably this was his primary business. And again, it was the place that everybody wanted to be. And so taking it out was definitely we're here to stay. This is our, the Pikes rule this place.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it. This Boba Fett guy's not going to do anything. He can't save you from that. I mean, it's just all the things you laid out are all 100% true, I think, and accurate. This was just the start of the war, and just say that there's nothing he can do for you. And you're ours. So just get out of the way or stay quiet.
Don't interfere.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Any chance that anybody survived this thing? You think they're all dead?
I hope they're all dead. I got some pretty serious damage.
Yeah. Oh, you mean just hope they are because of the sake of the bomb, not because you hated them?
No, yeah. I didn't.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, that's pretty cold, Jonesy. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're not.
Oh, Jennifer Beals was nice to look at.
Yeah, I know. I hope she lived. I hope the next scene we see her crawling out and she's got a force field around her.
Dude, she was near the door and it blew. Oh.
Don't break my heart.
But of course, you didn't grab the sequence here, where the way that they do the wipe, you go from the fire to the hut, to the temple.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it goes from the bottom, so the fire, like, it almost makes it look like the hut's on fire.
Yeah,
as it swipes.
Neil says, please let her live. I know Neil's with me because he's my 80s buddy. So he knows what it's about. So here we go. We get to see the Max is fine. Rob, what about Max? He's fine. He's like I said, he's off. He was off that night. They had a stand in and he's good. They're so this is the hut now. It's complete. At least this first little dome hut that they were building, the androids are building at the beginning of the episodes. It's kind of cool to see it look the way it looks. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell whether or not this is that planet. And I know it has a name, and I cannot freaking think of the name right now. But inside, we get these last shots where there's not a lot of dialogue, right? It's just really kind of him and Grogu, Luke and Grogu, kind of at first, anyways, sitting there in meditative stance. And this is where he pitches this whole concept of, okay, here's the armor,
mithril armor. Yeah.
Yeah. Mithril. Where's Lauren?
Right.
Because I messaged her as soon as it happened. I was like, you need to watch it because I got to send you a little meme. But it's almost like right out of that. And we talked about whether or not it would be chainmail versus ring mail. This is definitely chainmail. It's not ring mail. So
Right.
if anybody's wondering. He basically tells him he's got a choice that he can either take the chainmail, which he starts to make an effort. I don't know if I got it yet. Like right here, Grogu starts to get up, like he's going to move towards it and pick it up. And then he tells him, but wait, there's more. And that's when he opens up this little
door number 2.
Yeah, in the box. And then we get the lightsaber. That was Yoda's, maybe, allegedly, retconned, whatever. He ignites it. I wasn't trying to capture this, but it came out perfectly. But you can see his little eyes there. He's so excited about it. Like, whoa, this is mine.
Like he says, like, I'm going to give you this lightsaber. Yeah, I would definitely give that to a kid. Nothing
Right.
wrong happened. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the Padawans. They were using them, or the down in the younglings that were training.
Yeah, but those were, but they had an explanation for that.
Well,
You could turn them to like training mode or something like that.
did they really? I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, you could turn the intensity down or something.
So it's only like a 3rd degree burn as opposed to severing a limb.
Exactly.
Of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
okay.
make sure you're wearing your PPE and you'll be all right.
Right. You're fine. Yeah, but he explains this is the lightsaber of his teacher, Master Yoda, and that he wants to bestow it upon him. And basically, he says, "Look, dude, now you got to make a choice, right? Do you want to stay with me or go with him?" He tosses in this whole line about you need to understand that you're going to live a very long time, and you may not see the Mando again if you come over here, right? He doesn't say you won't. He just says you may not see him again, because he's really got to dedicate his life to it, and he's got to dedicate a long period of time to master the Force, and that amount of time may be greater than somebody like Mando would live, right? So he's just being honest with them, I guess.
But he laid it on pretty thick though, because he's like, you're forsaking the ways of the Jedi if you choose to go with your friend.
Yeah,
and he lays that one out there pretty clearly, in several sentences to make sure that it's very, very articulated that there's no coming back once you go down that path.
Yeah, he says you're going to give into attachment too.
Right.
We got time, and I do want to talk about this here in a little bit because I don't know. I can see both sides of it, and I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other. I think there's a piece of me that feels like, Luke is being very earnest and sincere about what he's doing here. He's given him a choice, and we're going to get into that. We'll pick at that here in the Patreon episode, but he has given him a choice. And you think about like Padawans in, prequel trilogy and all that, or even High Republic era, they really weren't given a choice, right? They were identified as being Force sensitive. The Jedi would come in, pretty much take their kid away and say, look, we'll be back later. You'll never see this kid again, but he's going to go on to do better things. So the betterment of the galaxy. So in a lot of ways, the Padawans never did have a choice. And it does feel like Luke is of that old school mentality of, hey, we're going to teach you young. You're going to have to fully dedicate yourself. You're going to have to cut off your attachments, and all this kind of flies in the face of, to some extent, it does. I can see the argument if it does fly in the face of what his father went through, and ultimately what saved his father. Right? It was the attachment. It was the love for his father that ultimately set him free and brought down the Empire. So I can see where people are having a problem with that as a disconnect. But we got to remember where Luke is in this timeline, right? And where he is mentally. And we talked a little bit earlier about his teachings, and this is the first time he's doing it. There are things that are probably still yet to occur, still yet to happen, that are going to start churning shaping him a little bit differently.
Right.
Um,
And
but
you have to
what
almost
do you?
wonder if he's overextending himself, because this is why Ahsoka didn't want to train Grogu, was that he was older. While he had training, he's been away from it, and he's got a lot of conflicting emotions. He's afraid, he's angry, and he's confused. He can't
Mhm.
remember apparently some things. Yeah, because I think Ahsoka said that to us in Mando season 2, right? But so yeah, to Luke's point, I think that you hit it right on the head though. He is trying to stick to the regimen of, okay, this is what Jedi teaching is supposed to be, even though everything I've done my entire life is completely flies in the face of all of that. But those were desperate times, right? There's an excuse for it. Those were desperate times and desperate measures. And that might be very, very true, but the old ways didn't exactly work out all that well all the time either.
Mhm.
And so again, he's not quite mature enough, but this is where it would be helpful to have some sort of context with what him and Ahsoka have been talking about.
Yeah.
If what has she shared, and what her journey looked like and what she saw with Anakin, those stories might help a little bit too. But I think he's also just so eager to have a first student, and one that appears so young, even though Grogu is 50 or so, right?
Right.
And so I think this is something that he's so eager to get started and to do it, and it's right in front of him. But now there's conflict, and he's kind of panicking about what to do about it. So he's going to go, okay, you got to make this choice. And I don't disagree with him. I think at this point, because I think it would be a bit difficult for Grogu to continue without kind of making that commitment, without making that decision.
It is a lot, and I know a lot of people have said this is really cruel. It's too much. You're putting this on a child to make a decision. Pick between your parents almost, right? You got your dad over there, you got your other dad over here, and both have their. Um, there's positives in both, and you're pretty young, but we're gonna allow you to make a choice. And I mean, I'm not gonna argue whether or not it's the right thing to do, given he is young, because he doesn't know some things. Like you said,
Right.
he's probably not in the right mindset or mind frame right now either.
But again, you have two starkly different cultures
Yeah.
between, and living in both worlds would be very difficult. Right. And so, and Swan makes a good point, but Grogu was a Padawan prior to this moment. And I think that's the other part that is really unclear, is how much training did he have? He would have been in his 20s, but that might be effectively a baby for his species. We don't really understand the aging process very well for whatever baby Yodas are. And so it's a big question though about what all he's had and what all he remembers and what he's going to remember, or what he's capable of remembering, to see if that comes about in any kind of way.
Mm. There's also, we got to keep in mind that there's very likely going to be scenarios once the temple's built and Luke starts bringing in students that it's through that, right? It's, even though, yes, I know he's had the experiences and he should be very conscious of that, and that should be what is ultimately kind of driving this new direction of the Jedi, but I don't think he's there yet. I think he's really, again, in a very innocent place where he feels like, hey, Yoda and Kenobi and all the teachings, and I've got all this material now. They're all relying on me to kind of just pick this mantle up and keep it going, kind of thing. And I think that's what he's going to very much what he's trying to do. I think through the process of bringing in new students and training, and I think he's going to start realizing that, wait a minute, maybe this isn't, it can't be as rigid, and maybe attachments um, are okay as long as there's certain guidelines around him and stuff. I think some of that is going to play out, and eventually we'll change it as well. You think about Kylo Ren as well, right? When he
Right.
comes in, and what impact that's going to have on the way he approaches the Force and the way he approaches training, and kind of molding this and making it however what he wants it to be going forward. Um, a lot of that, I think, for me, is context around Ray too, right? I think
Mm.
what he instills in Ray and some of the teachings, like he comes back and says, "Look, we had it all wrong, or they had it all wrong, right? They were hubris, and all that stuff that he says in Last Jedi. I feel like this is he. It's not a disconnect.
Right.
He's telling you, look, what we're seeing now is the path that he went down before he realized that none of that was really the right way to go. That there
Right.
are other. It's much bigger and deeper than that.
Yeah, which is going to be, I think, difficult for people
Reconcile.
to kind of take. It's gonna open some old scabs. I think
Yep.
those old wounds are going to come out, and we're going to have another Luke Skywalker issue in Star Wars.
Yes, I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun. Um, so there was one other thing that I want to talk about just quickly on this Luke decision, and it kind of escapes me now. Oh, so I guess he tells him which do you choose, and I mean we all knew this was going to be the cliffhanger because
Right.
that's what they would do to us, and they leave us kind of wondering. This poor little sap. Look at him; he has no idea what to do. To
Right.
be honest. So he's definitely conflicted by it. But let's say, I guess for the sake of it, if he chooses one or the other, how do you see it happening? Like if he chooses the lightsaber and he sticks around, do you see him coming back at all in the next episode? Do you think he returns in season 3 as a Jedi or a Padawan of some sort? Does he have like a little Padawan braid?
They have a brain.
I don't know how that's gonna work. He doesn't have any hair. How do they do that? Maybe they just pin it to his robes or something.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
And then vice versa, if he decides to split and leave, what does that look like? What's the future look like for him? Are we back to father and son,
Back
cub
to
and wolf,
baby in the baby in the bubble, right?
baby in the bubble? Is that what's happening in next episode or season 3?
Well, I mean, that's the big question, right? I guess if he shows up at the end of Book of Boba in the next episode, then we clearly know the answer because Luke is taking him back to him, presumably. But I don't know. I mean, you would hope that he would stay and at least give that life a try. We don't know how much time has passed, but presumably a few months. That's kind of my guess. But it'd be nice for him to actually, now that he's overcome some things mentally, give that a longer shot, and see what he can do. But it's going to be so emotional, and I think that's the part that maybe is a little bit unfair. Is that there's a lot of emotion tied up into it, and that's the whole point. I get that, but give him time to think. Does he have to really decide in this exact moment, what he wants to do for the rest of his life? I mean, he's only got 850 more years to go.
Right. I'm just laughing because you're right. Like it's like he puts him on the spot. It's like, hey, pick one right now, please, because we got to go. And
Right? Yeah.
this
You-
poor kid's looking at him like,
yeah. I mean, you
I
got
just want a frog. I don't know what to do here, sir.
right. Yeah. I'm just hungry. You have any
Yeah.
eggs? But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a yeah. I'm torn because we want to see him back with Din Djarin, right?
Yeah.
And we want to see him in the ship because it's made for him. But at the same time, I don't. I mean, the thing is, well, maybe Luke and Grogu will come in and save the day or whatever. If Luke sees Boba Fett, I don't think that's going to go so well.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Right.
thought about that too.
So that's a gap that I think people overlooked for a while, and then they kind of came to their senses. But they just can't. He's not going to go in there and just help him after, especially what he did with Han. He's going to view him as an enemy pretty quick.
Yep.
And yeah, building a crime syndicate still not on the great side of things. So not lining up with the Jedi code or the ancient Jedi texts.
Okay. Well, I got a couple tinfoil hat theories that I'm going to share now.
Yeah, let's do it.
At least speculation about where this could go a couple different ways. And again, I don't consider any of this stuff to be canon, or it's definitely not true because it's just me and my weird mind. But I think if he stays, I think he's going to stay with Luke. Okay. I don't think he stays there permanently. I know a lot of people said, "Oh, he stays with Luke and he's going to die because Kylo Ren's going to kill him." One, I don't think that's going to happen. But let's just say, for the sake of argument,
So he's going
Kylo
to
Ren-
go the Anakin route, basically.
yeah, right. Well, yeah, but let's say Kylo Ren. We fast forward. Grogu's still in the temple. Kylo Ren comes in, stabs him with his lightsaber. The mithril chess piece now is what would protect him, right? So he still lives. That's in my head canon. I don't think that happens though, because if you go back to, what was it, Last Jedi? I think it was Last Jedi. They say that that Kylo Ren was actually the first student, right? So maybe Grogu doesn't ever actually truly make a decision, but he stays here long enough that at some point he leaves and all that. But so if we take it at face value, then Kylo Ren is the first student. Grogu was never around, which means that Grogu then would eventually have gone back to Mando. I just don't see this show like, and I've said this in the very freaking first episode, that this show is about Mando and this baby. As much as Mike and everybody else hated that, or some people hated that,
Right.
that is what this show is.
Yep.
And I saw, and there was somebody else that was on Twitter or something. Someone said, well, it's just going to be a decision made up by Disney, depending on what they want to do to make money. I don't believe that at all. The more we continue to do shows like this, and the more we continue to understand the way the industry works, it's not how it works. the creators create, and they hold them accountable to that sometimes they don't. But the creators create the stories they want to, right? They're paid to do that.
Right.
And whether it's successful or not, it depends on that determines whether or not they're allowed to continue on. And so when you have something like this with a Dave Filoni and a Jon Favreau who've kind of laid everything out, I think they've already laid out this story of the Grogu. And then here's where I'm going to get really kind of wacky. So just stay with me now.
Okay.
I really feel like Grogu does go back to Mando. I feel like he is going back with the Beskar shirt and the lightsaber, and at some point that this whole The Mandalorian show, and I said this on Twitter, I think, and I said that this episode kind of opened my eyes to the idea that maybe the Mandalorian that we're talking about has never been about Din. That the Mandalorian we're talking about is Grogu, and it's the return of the Mandalorian, right? The Mandalore, right? And going back to the Mandalorian lore, that was the one ruler of everybody. So now you've got a baby Yoda character who is a Mandalorian, but not in the true sense because he was a foundling, which is a whole nother new direction to go. He's got the armor. He's got a lightsaber hilt. And the only thing they need to do now is take that crystal out of the Darksaber, stick it in Yoda's old lightsaber, and you've got the rebirth of the Mandalore, and it's now this little guy right here, and he's now ruling Mandalore itself. How about that?
That is something. Meanwhile, so Kuan and Khan.
Well, I mean, later, right? I mean, it's not like immediate, later down the road, because he's, by the time he's like that would be a way to explain why Grogu's not around in the sequel trilogy, because he's still young, ruling Mandalore, rebuilding Mandalore with Din Djarin and everybody else, and so they can't get involved because they've got a lot of stuff that they're rebuilding. So we don't see him as the true Mandalore, as the next Tar Vizsla until 100 years from now, which is well beyond the Rise of Skywalker timeline.
So we're not rebuilding Mandalore then?
No, we are, but I'm saying this is where he's tied up, and that's why that's why they don't have to explain where Grogu is, because he's around, but he's like with the other Mandalorians on Mandalore, and they're still rebuilding and still doing whatever they're doing during the events of the sequel trilogy.
Well, I kind of hoped that he was going to be the next Palpatine in the sequel trilogy.
No, come on, that's ridiculous.
Right? Yeah, I mean, he's going to use his powers. The Mandalore, he gets corrupt, starts adopting the dark side because he didn't have proper training, and he's been pissed about it because Luke made him choose like 200 years ago. He's like, "Well, F this, I'm done. It's time to take over the galaxy."
Are you mocking me, Jonesy?
No, I'm like laying it out there. This is where it goes. I'm just taking the torch,
running with it.
That's right.
Okay. Well,
yep.
Those are the dreams I have, folks.
Mandalorians assemble, taking the galaxy.
Yeah. But visually, imagine that.
Visually, that'd be pretty amazing.
A little mini Darksaber, and he'd look so cute running around with like Beskar armor on and
fighting Rey
as the evil.
She's an old woman. She's like Jocasta Nu, old age.
Okay. That's all I got. The best I have.
But
what else we got to discuss? I think that's it. We get to the choice, and that's the cliffhanger. So I mean, I don't know what to expect in chapter 7. Like, I hope this thing is going to be like an hour at least, because there's so much that still needs, in my opinion, a lot that still needs to be resolved, and maybe we won't get it all resolved. Either way, it just feels like they've been leading up to this big war, and I don't know if 45 minutes is going to do it unless they just kick it off.
I mean, it really does. Usually we don't subscribe to like it's going to be more than an hour because they haven't needed it, because they would break it apart. But you're right. This one still has a lot of buildup to. I mean, we've got the catalyst, I guess, with the explosion. So I think if we're looking for the catalyst, we've got it. Now we have the time to fight, but we've still got to resolve Cobb Vanth. We've got to get the village organized. I think Cobb Vanth could also ask the Tuskens that helped them, and that could bring you another Tusken. And we all know that both Din Djarin and Boba Fett have at least some connection to Tuskens, at least understanding them and being able to communicate. So that's another way they could come around. And also, just how do they go about the war at this point? And because they're still they're under armied, whatever that is. They're outgunned,
They're understaffed.
understaffed. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They've got the help wanted sign out, but no one's really applying.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to get through, and I'm thinking it's like another hour and 15 minutes. I think you really need to get through that story and do it kind of properly. But I will say this episode was how long?
40.
45?
I think it was 47, but
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
around
47.
there.
It felt much longer than that. And so they jam packed a lot of it. Now, I think with the training sequence, they were definitely ping ponging and bouncing around a little bit. No pun intended, but just kind of, bouncing between the different scenarios, and not a montage specifically, but that same principle, but without the montagey music. Well, I guess we had a little bit of him jumping around. That was montagey.
Yeah, we did.
It counts.
It counts for me. Yep.
Right. But they still packed a lot in.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. And who's directing the last one then?
I think it's Favreau.
Is it Favreau? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I mean, they could probably do it in 50 minutes, but hour and 10, it might be what it takes, but we'll have to see. It'd be interesting how long they go. But again, I don't think we've seen a Mandalorian episode, maybe only one. I think that's gone over an hour.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was close to an hour, like 50 something minutes. Up.
Yeah, I guess we technically haven't gone over an hour.
No.
So I don't see that starting, even though it kind of feels like it could or should.
It should, right?
But I'm guessing we're going to be right around that 50, 52 minute mark.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just to get through like the war, and then you kind of want.
Well, I don't think we're going to end the war. I think it's going to still. I think we're going to get that kind of. I think we're going to have more of a cliffhanger this year than we've had in some other ways. Because we've not really had a cliffhanger. Everything's been more or less resolved, right?
I mean, well, Mando, and I mean, you could argue with Grogu leaving and whether or not you'd see him again would be considered a cliffhanger, but
I don't. Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Not in the
sense
traditional
of
sense, like there's suspense, like oh my gosh, someone's going to die.
Yeah, this is like Fonzie jumping the shark in Happy Days.
Right. But yeah, Grogu going with Luke was the resolution of the Grogu, or the quest, if you will, outside of things. So it seems like this one has the opportunity to at least have more of a traditional type of, cliffhanger that would have to see what the next season is going to bring us. Because I presume there's going to be a second season of Book of Boba Fett. Although we'll have to see. Yeah. With the way this one's been received, we'll have to see exactly how that goes, but I imagine it's still going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the last two episodes notwithstanding, but yes, you're right. Given how jumbled it's been and, lack of Boba Fett thereof and all that, we'll see. Steph asked, when does Mando's season 3 happen? Maybe they just continue most of this there.
Yeah. We don't have a firm timeline yet.
We're hoping it's like at the end of the year, but we still don't know.
Yeah. If it was November, December would likely be it.
I would not be surprised if this is all we get for Grogu. You know what I mean? Like none of this gets resolved about whether, which side he picked and all that. Yeah. To me, it feels like it could be a distraction. And like you said earlier, like I was thinking through, okay, well, maybe he does decide to go back to Mando. Well, Luke's got to take him there. And hello, now you got Luke showing up at the party and, it's over at that point. So, this party's over, right? So I don't think that's going to happen. I kind of wanted to. I would feel better if they just didn't come back to that. And we got quite a bit in these 2 episodes. Pretty happy with what we got, even if we are left with this big cliffhanger. But I would like to see some time lapse and kind of see where Grogu is after that. And let's just pick this up in season 3.
I agree, because we don't have. I mean, these events in the next episode aren't going to be a year long or something like that. At least. Typically, Star Wars doesn't do those types of things. So I think I'm with you. I think this is where we don't have to have Grogu come back. And this is why I don't want him to come back in this season. And we just pick that up later on and figure out what it is. Because I think if Luke takes him and shows up, that muddies the waters with Boba and everything else. And what are they doing to where I don't know what they do with that. And then you got a whole mess on your hands. And I don't think Ahsoka is going to be taking him back, because it seems like she's gone and he doesn't have her number. Yeah, she gave him the wrong digits. So sorry, Luke.
Yep. Hey, happens to us all, buddy.
Right.
Story of my life, man.
Yeah. Sometimes more than once.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, we'll just kind of leave it there. I'm looking forward to the last episode. I know it's been kind of a wonky season in terms of the way it's been laid out.
Yeah.
I've been pretty happy though. I mean, I can't say that I've not enjoyed any of these episodes, especially the last two. And I know it's not Boba Fett, but I mean, it's just good Star Wars. And my God, I don't know what there is to complain about that. Just because it doesn't fit in the box, get over it, right? Just
Right.
enjoy it.
Right. I think that's the takeaway. I'm right there with you. Of just look at what it is and did you like it? You know,
Yeah.
it just take everything else away. And I get you want the broader narrative, and we've been very critical about the broader narrative not always working, or it being thought through with like single trilogy. But there clearly is a plan. There's a progression of all of this, even if we're taking a bit of a detour here.
Yeah.
And again, if we really want to look at it thematically as a book, then some chapters take you in different directions. And then you come back to the action, and eventually all the pieces come in. Now, is 7 chapters enough for the story where we've been? It kind of seems like probably not enough,
Yes.
which is why I think that we're not going to get total resolution here, and we will actually have um, a true dropping off point that we're going to have to wait until next season to get anything kind of resolved.
Yeah, and if I could, I don't want to rehash what you said. I'll say it a different way though. The what one of the reasons why this may not make a whole lot of sense to have these two episodes diverge the way they have is because we're looking at it as going in this grand scheme of 7 episodes. You've now dedicated what
4.
7? What's that?
Oh, wait, what, are you doing math or what?
Yeah, I was doing like so I was trying to figure the math out. So like 24% of the episodes have now been about Mando and Grogu. It's a
Well, and
significant chunk, a quarter of them.
Right, and then of the other 3/4, how much was spent in the past?
Sure. No,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
another
exactly
yeah.
right. That's a good point. So, but I think when you look at it like that, the math doesn't add up and it feels weird. It doesn't fit in the proverbial box and it makes people uncomfortable, especially critics. Okay. But if you look at if they're playing the long game here and they're playing, it's not 7 episodes, it's not even 16 episodes. We're on the 23rd episode of long story that it's going to expand across a total of, I don't know, 50, 60 episodes. This is a drop in the hat. Like it makes sense from that perspective. They just haven't given it to us. They've never said that. And again, we're speculating here, but I think in that regard, it probably makes sense. Right? That puts a different spin on the perspective of what they were trying to do. And um, I think we'd feel better about it if that turned out to be the case.
Right, and if they were to put this into a DVD package or a Blu-ray package, you could definitely see them rebranding it as the Book of the Mandalorians or
Mhm.
Mandalorian or however you want to phrase that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
to where it really encompasses all of everything that we're seeing, plus maybe some things that we're going to see elsewhere too.
Yeah.
Now, I think if Ahsoka's series starts blending in this world, that does feel a little bit off if she's going after Thrawn, or if we're trying to find Thrawn and Ezra and all that. But again, it doesn't mean that it might not be a bad thing, because again, you have allies and you need help. You turn to the people that you can trust, and that'll be loyal. So, and yeah, Twan's, it's world building, and yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing with world building in Star Wars, because sometimes you get this. There's only 200 people in the town, and we all know everybody. Everybody's known everybody.
Right.
Rather than it's a huge galaxy, and we feel very disconnected. But again, we like the connections between people. They just have to be, more organic sometimes than they end up being. And I think these are more or less working pretty well the way we've got it. And again, this is why we're all on Tatooine. I never thought I'd say this, but I mean, that's the reason why everybody, we've just built this group of people. We're all on the same planet. So we really don't have to go all that far.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, there we go. It all
Okay.
makes sense now. This is why Tatooine was built in the first place.
Yes.
Now I'm kind of hoping Tatooine gets blown up at some point.
Oh, I'm the one with the crazy theories.
Well, we know it doesn't get blown up anytime soon.
True.
But yeah, Grogu comes back. He's pissed at Tatooine too.
Third coming of this Star Destroyers or Death Stars.
That's right.
Okay. I guess we're gonna end the show finally. So thanks for everybody for sticking around for 2.5 hours. I think it went shorter than what I thought, but we definitely got hopefully you got your money's worth, if you will, for the amount of content and theory and speculation and discussion that we had. Thanks everybody that participated in the chat. Do you want to take a stab at trying to call everybody out? There was a billion people here tonight.
Yeah, we had some new folks too, and I think I want to call out some of the new folks. We had a lot of the regulars here, so thank you guys for all showing up. Jonathan showed up again from last week. Rob, William, of course, Stefan, Dante, Neil was out. Thanks for showing up, Neil. Lauren, Ash, Dark Tower, Risk, Alex. Goodness, there were some other folks later on. I'm trying to find them here so I don't forget them. I know this is terrible radio. Kathy. We had some spammers. Sorry about that. Keaton Haas, new folk there. Katya, saw you there. I think I said Rob already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the list goes on and on and on. Those are just the people that spoke. So, Josh, Josh on Music Train, and goodness. Anyway, we had a lot, and we had some latecomers here. Jamie the Panda. Goodness. Michael Cervantes. Who else? Man, I'm trying to get through this whole list. Now I feel bad. Now I'm going to leave someone off. They're going to be like, but I was there too.
We need to hire somebody.
Jay.
Qui-Gon Jay showed up. Yeah, there.
Yeah, we need someone to like take names and then just
take roll call.
Yeah, and then we just paste the list so we can read it all off at the very end. I think I'm getting towards the bottom list. I think I got most. Oh, headless Ned Stark.
Oh, yeah.
That one hits me deep, man. I that one hurts. But first time seeing that name, so all right. I think I got everybody that at least chatted. So, and we had a great crowd tonight too. So appreciate everyone tuning in. And again, why don't you plug Patreon one more time?
Why would you do that to me? I don't know any of these things.
Patreon. No, what we're going to talk about. Patreon.com/.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was like, this is your job, not mine. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to for Patreon this weekend. I think Sunday we're going to shoot for a recording, very similar to what we did last week. We're going to talk about the whole concept of free will versus choice. Get into more discussion about what Luke was trying to do in offering those choices, whether it was sincere, whether it was not. We'll talk about Padawans and some of the other choices that people are unfortunately have to make in Star Wars. And then I want to credit Becca because she gave me another angle as I was telling her what we were going to be talking about here. She brought up the idea that a lot of times in Star Wars, the choices that we make have consequences. And so I kind of want to talk about that's a good point. I do want to talk about the consequences to some extent of what we talked about here, just the next level up about, whether he stays or goes and what that future holds. So again, we'll do all that on Sunday night, and we will record that live, much like we're doing tonight. So even if you're not a Patreon member, if you want to come into our Discord is where we post the link. You can join that show for the live viewing, live recording.
I've started posting it. So we do it on YouTube. And so I've actually started publishing the link.
Oh, okay, cool.
For YouTube as well. Yeah. So you don't have to be in Discord. But hey, if you want to join the conversation in Discord, eargluemedia.com/Discord. And the channel and the Boba Fett thread has been going crazy, of course. So if you're not in Discord, you're missing out on a lot of great conversation. A lot of great ideas and some wonky ones too, but a whole lot of fun.
And I will be streaming. I will be streaming SWTOR tonight as part of my daily. So if you want to come in, join, and talk to me while I'm playing, you got to go on to Discord. It'll probably be in about an hour or so, probably about 12:30 Central Time. So it'll be pretty late. But hey, come on in. Twan was with me last night. We were talking about stuff, so it was fun. But
you do a channel over on Discord, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So for all you late folks, eargluemedia.com/Discord if you want to hang with Albert. I will be sleeping or playing Marvel Puzzle Quest.
Yeah, let's be real. It's going to be the second.
Right.
Okay. With that, we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this show, and we'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.